Yeah, so this is gonna be about. Hold on for a second. All right. So it's gonna be basically about just this incel stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah. Hold on. I think I got an echo. Hold on. Oh, all right. Okay. What was that now? No, I don't. Now you're good. All right. All right. So how's it going, everyone? This is unceremoniously the first episode of the Hot Button Podcast. I'm not really. I just made this up on the fly, so I'm just really nervous about this. About Yeah, I'm just really nervous about starting this up right. So I wanted to get every as much people as I can now. So guess that's all I'm gonna get tonight. So it's late, so I wouldn't blame anyone. So yeah. So oh. uh, you gonna run with what's on your notifications, boy? We know what you doing at midnight. Stop. I was thinking about. Yeah, never mind. Yeah. Huh. Yeah. Well, all right. So what I want to discuss today about is basically what one angry gamer did today, as far as like posting that bullshit article about yeah, he posted that bullshit article about. Let's see here. He posted that bullshit article about black robbers killing somebody. Yep. So I just yeah. Well, hold on. Let me get the archive of this because I'm not giving that man any clicks. So hold on. Let me get this archive started. So basically the gist of it is that he brought up this story about stolen Nintendo Switch online activation led to black murder suspects and whatnot. And he basically was going on and on about. He was fairly neutral in his article. He was fairly neutral about the whole incident, but the comment section tell a different story, and not to mention the fact that he had to put two of them black. He had to put the skin color of the people in there on in the title of the article. So basically, yeah. Hold on. Let me paste this right now. Let me paste the archive right now in the Discord. It's in general chat. Hold on. Yeah. So basically, I just wanted to talk about this because it's like it's been bothering me for a couple of months now. How this guy claims he's part of this anti censorship group, but he's doing more harm than good when it comes to the topic of censorship. You know what I mean? Like he's doing way more harm to basically the entire gaming community. And with the bullshit that Niche Gamer started, that bullshit surrounding Niche Gamer. I mean, it's like we virtually had nobody to just look towards to go to. Now we're basically homeless at this point. Yeah, so I mean, people want to label the entire gaming industry incels and shit like that, but I feel like people are not calling him out enough. That's what I'm saying. It's like the entire gaming industry. I mean, the entire gaming community just seems to be silent on him, and we shouldn't have to put up with it because of the fact that the guy basically he's hurting our reputation. So I just wanted to put that out there. What y'all thoughts are? Yeah. Hello. Hello. Oh, yeah. She crashed out. Oh. Well, my definition of censorship is altering a developer's original vision of a game just because of what bureaucrats want in different countries, what bureaucrats want. And I'm gonna say this right now. I think that no game should be censored under any circumstances. If there's an audience for it, then yeah, if there's an audience for it, then I feel like you should. If there's an audience for it, then I feel that people should get their hands on it regardless. It's like if it has the appropriate ratings, then yes, yeah. So, yeah, and yeah, yeah. I'm from Chicago, so right. Yeah. So, what you're saying is that we have to look at it from a different point of view, right? Yeah, yeah. Well, most of the censorship these days mostly relates to like sexual content rather than violent content. I think that battle has been won. That battle has been won, like since right. Yeah, 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 the stage now.
Importantly, when it comes to censorship, kind of what you're talking about has already been discussed. I mean, when you think of things like Night Trap and stuff like that that came out, that led to the creation of kind of the ESRB when it came to violent content, things that would obviously be viewed as troubling or something like that. However, I think the question then for most people is there still content that's being logged in media that is harmful to people? Maybe not in terms of violence, but in terms of systematic kind of issues. And I think that's the question that a lot of people are asking. For example, I know that's what a lot of the feminists are asking.
Yeah.
Is sexual content, not sexual content, but is sexualization, for example, of female characters, is that harmful to particular groups? And I think that's more of an evolution of the question of censorship.
Right.
Right.
And if we're gonna ask that question, and I'm gonna say this right now, I'm gonna say it's dark misogyny too.
Okay.
And I'm gonna say because like seriously, I honestly these are the same feminists, like honestly, the same feminists that complain about this. I don't know who you are or not, but and Black Sage will tell you, I don't know too much. I may not say a lot about it on Twitter,
Mm-hmm.
but talking, I disagree totally with you. That's it. But when it comes down to like a lot of these feminists, I've noticed a pattern. Most of the feminists that complain about censorship of sexual, sexual censorship are normally a unattractive,
True. True. True.
b b they and they don't get nothing. So it's more of a jealous. It stems from jealousy. It stems from they throw that word, they throw respect out there. Oh, we respect women, for example, to get with these women who are attractive or who are marketing themselves in that manner. Um, and they try to team up with them and try to get them to say, hey, I'm on your side until they do something that they disagree with, and then it becomes a shitstorm of insults. It becomes um, it becomes more of a how do I put this? Like it becomes like basically like as them saying that that's left feet itself. Like
Right.
basically that's basically what happens. You know what I'm saying? Because they
And
end up getting insulted and fighting each other because of the jealousy, the internal jealousy.
mostly it stems from it mostly just stems from place of insecurity. Mostly, it's because when I
That's from what I see. I can't speak for
and
everybody
and
else,
it's
but that's just from what I see.
no, it's I've looked at many of the people who've been commenting on sexualization of women, and oh, this is unrealistic. It is usually it always boils down to, and I've seen it every time. I keep asking, and it boils down to every time I'm insecure. I will never get a body like that. Men are only attracted to this type of body type, and it's like here's the
Which
thing.
is a lie. Which is a
Right.
looks is for the most part. I wouldn't say it's a total lie, but it is a little far fetched because it's like there are men out there who are attracted to certain different body types, but
If I
go ahead. I'm sorry.
if I can give a female perspective, I think
That's why I
that
invited you. Yeah.
uh, um, first of all, I'd like to say that I both agree and disagree with you
Okay.
in certain aspects.
Okay.
The one thing that I agree with is that I don't particularly think that the way things are portrayed in media translate to harming people. There have been a lot of studies that have been conducted over the course of many, many years that have concluded that that's just
Yeah.
And see, worldview ideologies when it comes to people. For example, you look at Anita Sarkeesian, when she's up there speaking about what she's speaking about, she truly, honestly believes in what she's saying. She's not she's not talking about these things in video games because she's envious or jealous or any of that stuff. She really does believe what she's saying based on what she's learned from sociology, based on what she's learned from the social sciences and humanities. This is real to her. You know what I mean? So for
Yeah.
her, when it comes to the sexualization of women, she truly does believe that this causes real world violence. You know, because of what she's been taught in feminism. So I think it's more about based on what she's learned from your social sciences, humanities. This is real.
Okay, and that's a good point. And I say jealousy. It will to me. This is from what I've seen, from what's been displayed. And because if you know, like the reason why I say jealousy, because if you look at it, even like you notice the hot ones, even the ones that claim to be in the feminism thing, they don't really follow that stuff. You know what I'm saying? And I guess that goes into what you were saying earlier about the worldview. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So that to me, this is from what I've seen, from what's been displayed. And because if you know, like the reason why I say somebody, has brought that up because sometimes I think, I think that's another thing that's missing too is the lack of um, conversation and comprehension. You
So
feel me?
yeah, I
Between
mean
the
absolutely.
two. I think that's the other thing that's missing. So you have that plus the way social media is now with what people are because if you know like this is what I think and this is how it is and nobody can change my mind. You know what I'm saying? And
You
this
know,
is it.
a little while ago, I made a comment where I compared incels to feminists. And I did that for a reason because there's a very stark similarity between the way both of them perceive the world around them. You know, if you look at a feminist, or if you look at an incel, you talk to an incel, you have to understand that they don't see the world the same way that we see the world. You know, you have normies and then you have everyone else when it comes to that kind of thing. Um, when you talk to them, they view every single thing in life down to literally anything you can think of through the lens of their ideology. And the same thing goes for feminists and people who usually have strong worldview ideologies in the first place. So feminists are no different when it comes to this kind of thing. So when they look at a video game, they don't see the video game. They see a series of systems and a series of different things that they've been taught. You know what I mean? You and me and Black Sage, we can look at a video game and we can play it. We can appreciate it for what it is. And that's why we don't identify with them ideologically. We don't see what they see. You know what I mean? And so it's why it's like we're both talking a different language when we both talk to each other. When you talk to them, they don't understand why you don't see what they see. And then when they talk to you don't understand why they see what they see. Because it's like both of you are talking a different language because you both have completely different views of the world around you.
Right. And here's the thing. And this is the interesting thing, right? In some cases, it's not that I don't understand where they're coming from because the dangerous part about it is a lot of what these people believe have some form of truth to it. And that's what makes it dangerous. It's like it's somewhat true. And you ever like a white lie they're basically it's kind of like a white lie, and a white lie we all know is dangerous because it has some truth in it.
Understand where they're coming from because
You know what I'm saying? Like there's a white lie. I was like, oh, is that me? Like, why am I echoing? I thought that was me echoing, but that's Black Sage. My bad.
Yeah. I had to fix some audio issues, folks. So I'm sorry about that.
No, that's cool.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying, like, it's more like I say, a white lie type fallacy. Like, it's these people are living in a some of it there's some truth that happens, and there, whether it happened to them, something that happened to them in the past, or maybe something that happened to them in real life, or whatever, they use that and they're like, oh well, see, this is exactly what's going on, this is, see what I'm saying, and it's not necessarily the case. Like, for example, a lot of people, like, one big thing about me, I support a lot of cosplayers. I do a little bit of their edits, and I definitely am more drawn to women in cosplay, especially black women, you know what I'm saying? But the biggest problem that I've seen with them is that a lot of them will complain, and they'll complain about, well, we're not getting enough attention, we're not X, Y, and Z, or we're getting these racist comments, we getting all these hateful comments. And like, and what they'll do, sometimes they'll go as far as to show a screenshot. And when they show the screenshot, you'll see like 5 comments.
Yeah.
Okay. You'll see 5 comments in the shit. 4 of them will be, "You go, girl," or "You rock." And then there'll be that one racist quote unquote comment, or the one derogatory comment right there. And it's like, see, we need more support in the communities and blah 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 whoopty woo. When clearly you literally overlooked the 4 people who support you for that one racist person.
Well, here's the thing. That's a lot of. Well, here's the thing. You're always gonna get positive reinforcement for doing a good job, but is that one instance, that one negative comment that always sticks with you, regardless of how much you get. And some people are just not. Some people are just not that strong-willed.
Well, you got a lot of weak-willed motherfuckers, and if that's the case. But anyway,
what you said literally has a name to it. It's called Texas sharpshooter fallacy. Texas sharpshooter fallacy is when you ignore a trough of a series of other types of information, and you only focus and laser in on one specific type of information. For example, you can have a series of numbers that shows you 50,000 different numbers, but you're only focusing on the 2s inside of the number. That's Texas sharpshooter fallacy. And that's, again, why I compared feminists to incels, because they both kind of do this a lot. Imagine having a belief where you're told from a very young age, from a very impressionable age, because you have to understand, most feminists and most SJWs are college-aged people.
Yeah, I've noticed that a lot of these feminists who basically complain about men having power fantasies and bashing men all the time, they're usually the same ones with a lot of daddy issues, mostly. And
absolutely. They're mostly middle class, college age people. That's generally the demographic of SJW types. Usually white, usually middle class, usually college aged.
I've seen a few black ones.
Oh no, there's plenty of black ones too. But
they're just trying to do.
Who are vocal about this kind of thing are usually fit a certain kind of.
Yeah. No, I say I know a few black ones who are pretty vocal as well. So like I said, I'm a black man in America, obviously, as you can tell. But yeah, no, you're right, and it's definitely, and it's honestly, to me, it's rather annoying, because it's like, don't get me wrong, and these are some of the same people like that are just always screaming racism, and I need people to understand that we all have racism. Like, we all have a little bit of racist views in us, or we have a little bit of, I wouldn't say racist, but prejudice is a better word, because a lot of us do have prejudice views especially when it came to us growing up, because I know Black Sage could tell you that one of the biggest things that we were told growing up is that because of our skin tone, we have it harder. And in some cases, that has been true, and it has been proven. Let's just, it's been proven, especially with us as black men. It's been a little bit more harder for us, and I get that. But then one thing I've also noticed too is that a lot of the same things that we've been told is just that a lot of times we've also, some people contribute to the stereotype. Basically, they will literally, talk ish about white people, and it's just like, but why would you sit up here and talk mess about white people, or constantly joke about white people and the things that they do or the lack of rhythm or whatever you find funny, and then get mad when they decide to make fun of our
Well,
accents,
it's
Well,
it's
when they
very
decide
simple
to
after
make
all. It's
yeah,
being
it's
told that you can't be racist. That's why.
yeah,
right.
yeah, which is stupid because it's like here's my thing. Like and I just go by a very simple rule. Like if I'm gonna talk shit about you, okay, if I'm gonna talk, like I'm gonna joke with you, okay, we gonna joke and have a good time.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
And if you can't, like, if I tell you something or that hurts your feelings, talk to me. Like I tell that to anybody. If you have a problem with me or if you don't understand something, understand what I say, especially when I post a topic out there, I do it for the sake of starting a discussion.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, it might, what I say might sound a little out there or outlandish or harsh, or it might sound petty, but then it's like it's to get traffic, because one thing I've learned how to do is just I've learned how to use certain keywords, or when it comes down to certain things, using keywords and saying, oh, this is, I know, or if you phrase it a certain way, it's going to get the attention. So then what happens is you get levels of people. You get those people that'll share it, some people will see it, some people will react to it, and then you'll have some people that'll really be like that'll lead to a conversation, and those are the people that are really worth the narrative in my personal opinion. But either way,
Well,
it's still fun to do it.
I think the interesting thing is when you have, I mean, imagine like how you were just talking about.
Yeah.
Imagine being told all your life that somebody's out to hurt you, that somebody's
Yep.
out to get you. Imagine being told that your whole entire life. Now imagine being told that, and then imagine going to college and then people confirming that. But they're not confirming it with superstition. They're
Right.
confirming it with scientific theories and stuff like that. Now you truly believe
Yeah.
that this is absolutely 100% true, that there are people who are out there who are trying to hurt you and constantly trying to get you, and it all makes sense. And
Mhm.
humans are kind of like that. We like to follow things that make sense to us. So if
Right. Of
you
course.
if you look at something that explains away a lot of the things that you've seen in your life, you're going to gravitate towards that. And that's what a lot
Right.
of these SJW types are, be them black, be them fat, be them white,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
anybody. If
And
you look at it, they're very similar, the arguments.
Right. No,
right.
you're right.
And
I
here's the
can't
thing.
tell you.
Here's a lot of thing.
Okay.
A lot of college age people are very impressionable. Not a lot of people understand that. So they're gonna gravitate something that has mostly been counter to them all their lives. I know from personal experience that I used to be like a humongous atheist, just a humongous atheist skeptic kind of guy who usually looked down on religion after being taught all my life about religion and stuff like that. And I was in
Yeah.
college too. Here's the thing, but uh, as time moved on, when I got out of college, and this is before most colleges became absolutely like batshit crazy,
Yeah.
right? So this is before a time where before colleges became, basically already bigger indoctrination centers than what they really are. I just basically held on to a belief, and I usually went with it too. And I looked down on religion, but as time moved on, I became older and I've gotten more mature. And this was pretty much 7 years ago, right?
Hmm.
In 2011. So as I grew up and became older, I realized that their religion does have a place in a lot of people's lives. It makes them happy. It gives them comfort, and it gives them a sense of peace of mind. And I look
Yeah.
back to basically the whole SJW anti-SJW thing. That's what the same mindset is, and that's obviously more nefarious than anything I've seen. These people say, because it's like they're taking like socially inept young people, or socially, I'm going to say socially inept, but socially, pretty much very socially homeless people who
No,
have
I
nowhere
would
else to
say.
go, and they have no belief system, and they have nothing to work for, no goals, no anything. And they have, and these tribes, they give them something to fight for, they give them something to do.
Mm.
When you, and I feel like if you this whole atheism thing, I feel like it's a substitute for something of a lack of belief.
Mm.
It's a lot easier to blame people
Right.
than to think that you have a problem.
And,
One of the hardest things that humans can do is self-reflection. That's one of
Yeah.
the most difficult things that humans can accomplish with themselves. It's easier to point your finger at someone else and say, well, they're the reason why I'm doing bad. They're the reason why this is all like this. And it
Mhm.
creates an enemy. And that's what you'll notice about a lot of these groups. You'll notice a pattern.
Yeah.
right.
Rather it be
Yeah.
feminism, rather it be the fat rights movement, rather it be Black Lives Matter, it all has a pattern. It all has an overarching enemy
Or
that needs
even
to be defeated.
or even an alt right. To be honest with you.
Oh yes, them too.
Yeah.
They're the exact same
Right.
when it comes to this whole entire thing. And it's weird that they don't consider themselves the same way.
Right.
When in reality,
Yeah.
if you look at them, if you go into, like, for example, alt-right circles, and then you go into feminist circles, you'll see very similar things with the way that they think about
Right.
the
Mm.
world around them. They think there's this grand enemy and they're the good guys that has to stand up to this injustice. And if only these people didn't exist, then the world would be, a paradise, kind of, so to
Right.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that I've noticed in religion too, is that it also, sorry, it also goes, yeah, religion also goes into self reflection. You know, it's like
To
to a
to a
cer-
degree,
to a degree, yes. It's like that's the ultimate
To a
goal
degree,
for most
yeah.
all religions. Is that you have to find, your inner self. And
Yeah.
that's what I notice a lot between the left and the right. This tribalism is like social justice is a religion to most of these people.
Mm.
It
Oh,
it,
yes,
it, it
absolutely.
legitimately is a religion. You're just replacing one religion with another religion. It's like
Right.
humans need something to believe in order to cope with the world. Otherwise, they would go insane. You know what I mean?
The only thing that I would kind of alter to that is I would more compare it to a cult more so than a religion. And the only reason
Oh
why I
yeah,
say that
yeah. No, you are exactly right. Because I had
the
that
only
word in
reason why I
mind
say
too.
that is a religion needs a faith-based kind of system to it. With SGWism, it's not faith-based. They do
It's
have a
fear.
lot of things that come
fear
from
box.
science, that come from social science, that come from all that stuff, but there's kind of a cult that they've built around it. Is the whole
It's
entire thing. They're not just taking the
it's a
raw
fear
social
mongering too.
science. Yeah, they're using a lot of the things that are taught in the social sciences to excuse kind of some of the actions that they do, and that's more cult like than it is
Yeah.
religious, in my opinion.
Right.
Mm.
And a lot of it
I
and a lot of it has to do with cultural aspects as well. It's like you're seeing all these off brands of the social justice movement. You have the radical feminists, you have the what do you call quote unquote turfs or whatnot. You have these you have Black Lives Matter, you have the trans rights movement, or something like that. And
yeah.
it's like you
And,
have
and
all
it's one thing.
and you have
Go ahead.
yeah, and you have all these different offshoots of, just like you have different offshoots of religion, like Christianity, for example. You have all these different offshoots of religion, and it's the same thing with the social justice and the anti-social justice movement. You have the
Yeah.
alt right, the men's rights movement,
I
the
now
nationalist
some of
movement,
the
something like that.
I'm gonna
All that.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna disagree with some of that. Like some of like the MRAs, like MRAs are, I don't think MRA are bad, per se.
Yeah.
I've been looking into some of these myself. MRAs not necessarily that bad. Like, there's a difference when like a group like the NAACP.
Right.
There's groups that focus on what's the word, enhancing a certain group.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And targeting a certain group to enhance them. That's not a cult. You know what I'm saying? There's a difference between that and say something like Black Lives Matter. In some cases, I will feel it's just the way they go about certain things, to where it's like, okay, they try to militarize everything, and it's like either you're for us or you're against us. Like I literally,
Yeah.
and
There's no
it's
middle ground anymore.
it's
And not
crazy
and
how
yeah.
it's
Well,
crazy how, like, I was a part of I was trying to be a part of this one group, for example.
Right.
It was a Twitch streaming group. It was I think it was like a black gaming group.
Right.
I think it was called like Black Gamers Revolution or something like that. And yeah, I'm calling them out. I don't care.
Yeah, go
Um,
ahead, go ahead.
uh, so they were claiming to be, and this is what I've noticed, especially with people in the like the left leaning. What they do is they use the word inclusive.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They use the keyword, which is they, we want to include you. You know what I'm saying? So we're all inclusive group for gamers, for black gamers and stuff. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm in there. I joined the Discord or whatever, and we have a conversation about something, and I don't remember the exact conversation, but like it got it started talking about like how black women, it was like this, the black women, are being, I guess, being not treated a certain type of way, and then there was like somebody shared an article saying something that black men are the new white men in America or some bullshit
Oh,
like
I
that.
read that bullshit article. Yeah.
And that we was talking about it, and it was just like me and I guess me and one of the mods didn't really agree on the topic. You know what I'm saying? And long story short, we of course we disagreed, and I got basically ended up getting kicked out the group, because I basically didn't agree with fully with their ideology.
And that,
and
yeah. Oh, hold
and
on.
that right there is what bothers the hell out of me, is like, how can you sit up here and say you're all inclusive, but yet you sit up here and turn people away because they don't believe in exactly what you believe in. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? Like, and that's cult like mentality, and that's not something that I want to be a part of. I've been through dumb shit like that before, at a previous church some years ago, and once I started making changes, I started seeing things, and making necessary changes. That's when things just started going south, and it's like, nah, bro, I'm not gonna do that. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, if you're all inclusive, that means you include the people that you don't necessarily may see eye to eye with. Um, but if we're all supposed to be working together as black people, I don't know, Bubblegum Rising, you may not be black. I'm just using this as an example. Um, if we're all inclusive, like I say we are, then the joint is all inclusive. That's literally what the letter says,
Mm,
is we include everyone who is of African American descent. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's what it's supposed to be, and I think that's what's happening now. It's become more of like Bubblegum was saying earlier. It's more of a cult mentality. It's like, well, this is what this is. Like, well, we what's the somebody made a thing like, dang, what was the statistic? It was like 46% of women, black women, face harassment online. Like, who came up with that study?
Right. You
You know what I'm
see,
saying?
here's the
Like,
well,
thing. Here's the thing.
you know what I'm
Statistics
saying?
will make,
Like,
yeah,
but
statistics will make you say anything. That statistic can pretty much say anything at any time at any group of people. But you have to understand that, these statistics are pulled from pretty much a small sample group of people. They're not really a reflective whole of the whole populace or the whole population. It's just a sample size.
exactly, and
I
and
think
and
people have to be very careful about listening to statistics. You really shouldn't use them unless you understand statistical analysis,
Right.
right,
because
or at least make it clear.
a
Go
lot
ahead.
of people will purposely misuse statistics. Like, I know we've all heard of bully hunters when that came out.
Right. Or
Yeah,
more
Uh,
or
with
more
them misusing statistics,
right, or more
and
famously, the 13% of the population commits 50% of the crime, and it's like you not taking into the account of
the proportion
right.
of those people.
Well, not even that. It's like the oh, sorry, some echo.
no, go over here.
Oh, well, not just that. It's just the fact that a lot of people. Yeah, sorry. It's not even that. It's just the fact that you had to take an account of the line of poverty that these people have, and a lot, let's just face it, a lot of black people are poor, and that's not necessarily our fault. It's just that you have entire generations that were pretty much born into poverty because we had to suffer from Jim Crow and slavery and
Yeah,
whatnot.
And this
So
yeah,
is absolutely true.
right,
that is, and that's fact.
and a lot of
That's
black
fact.
people who came from the north, a lot of people who live in the north coast and the east coast and the west coast and up north, they all came from the south, so they had to move because of those Jim Crow laws. It's called the Great Migration. So yeah, you gotta look
You
that
know,
up.
one of these things is something that I've never quite understood why a lot of people can't understand,
Right.
and that's that poverty usually breeds crime. It's that same way everywhere
Yeah, just look at a
in
lot of third
in the
world
world.
countries. Yeah.
Even if you looked at England back in the 1820s through the 1890s, Whitechapel was considered one of the most dangerous streets in the world. And that's because of the amount of poverty that was there. Poverty breeds crime. And I think a lot of the people who talk about, black people make up 15% of the population, but they make up about 50% of the crime, don't take
Mhm.
into account the massive amounts of poverty that black people live in,
Right.
and
Yeah.
that's why they commit so much crime. Same thing with other immigrants like Cubans and Mexicans and
Yeah.
people of that like as well.
It's
But then
right.
that also goes down to another important thing. It's like when you look at stats too. And here's the thing: people, this other thing when it comes down to statistics, that nobody really pays attention to. That
Right.
there is a little like a fine print almost, if you will, when you look at certain places that show statistics, is they literally put like little lines at the bottom, and it says according to this year from this time, this count, like, and a lot of people either don't look at that or they omit that part, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Which is crazy. And also, like, when it comes down to 13% of the people committing black people being 13% of the population committing over half the crimes. Yeah, I mean, poverty does have something to do with it, but also I think also the mentality has something to do with it as well.
Right. When
Well,
you
um
when
sure,
when
you
you're
eventually breed a culture after a while when it comes down to
right.
it.
exactly.
Right.
So and that's
And
where my thing is like, at the same time, yeah, y'all, everybody's absolutely right, yeah, but at the same time, it's like, okay, where that even goes back to what these SJWs, for example.
right.
um and it's like, yeah, some of these yeah, there are bad dudes out there, we're not going to sit up here and flex, but at the same time, what are you going to do to prevent it, like,
The curb that, like, I not like. Here's an example. I never seen any of these white SJWs come down to, per se, the South Side of Chicago or the inner city sides of Chicago, or any of these black-owned neighborhoods.
Yes,
I have
yes,
never
yes.
seen any of these people come down here to help with the situation. You want to talk about? Oh, we're trying to help. We're trying to help marginalized and oppressed classes. It's like, okay, what are you physically doing to help? What are you structurally trying to do to
I
help
am
them?
so glad that you said that.
Because
I can't stand that, bro.
because I hear all these SJWs talk about all this pseudoscience and, teaching them all this malarkey about, oppressive math, and, we need to stop teaching the colonization and stuff. It's like
It's oppressive.
It's not
Oppressive. Wait,
taking
can we
anything
can
else.
we can we stop for a second
like
and say
math being oppressive and stuff
oppressive
like that. It's like,
oppressive math, really?
right,
Oppressive fucking math. How
right.
stupid. See, that's how I
I
know
gotta link the
folks is
article,
stupid.
man. I gotta link that
That's
article because
You
it's
know,
true.
hey,
that's
let
how
me
one
say
plus
this.
one
Let,
plus
let,
one equals re. Like,
Yeah.
no, bitch. Like, the fuck out of here.
let me say this. It's very interesting that you said that, because one thing that I study into a lot is financial inequality.
Right.
Which I think is an important thing. I got into some trouble back when I was a little younger, and I went to prison for 3 years, up in Rockville, up in Indiana.
Oh.
Mhm.
And after I came out, I suffered with homelessness and addiction and things like that. And that's one of the major issues that I have with feminists and feminism.
Right.
Usually with feminism, it's a trickle down effect. People on the lower end of the scale don't really they don't really I don't know what I'm trying to say. They don't really get the effects of what those people are fighting for until
Right.
much, much later
Right.
afterwards. I'm seeing it like, well, where are you women when there are women who need beds to sleep in? Where are you women when we're asking for help, and they're nowhere to be found? There are these middle class people who are talking about a lot of things, but they're forgetting about some of the most desperate women in America that
or around
absolutely need their help,
the world,
or
basically.
around the world.
Because I
Or
know
down
for
the or down the street. Let's just stick with down the street. Forget
right,
around the world. Like let's. I'm not trying to be funny. Let's not be. I'm not being rude here, but I'm just saying. Let's just start with our own backyard, please, because
right.
that's the problem. Everybody's thinking, oh, what about what's going on in X country over here, this country over there? Let's start with our own front door, please, because we have homelessness in our own country that
Absolutely.
we need to address.
You look at
Sorry.
I
you
don't
look
know
at
if you guys. I don't know if you guys. I don't mean to cut anybody off, but I don't know
No,
if you
no.
guys know who Rentham is. I
yeah,
was
I know who that is.
I was talking to her a little while ago,
Yeah.
saying that why should I or any woman on the lower end of the scale care about what somebody who's making $1 million, what happens to them? Why should I care about that person? Why should I care about that kind of thing when nothing's even being done to help, people like me or low income people or people who are on the lower, scale? Is it really so important for you to be championing for fictional women inside of a video game or a comic book when there are
Right.
real women who don't even have beds to sleep in?
Right.
When
And that's
you
the thank you.
you could be
Yeah.
coming down and doing so much about that. If you put as much money that you put into these crowdfunding campaigns, if you put as much time and effort into volunteering, and trust me, those places always need volunteers.
Yeah.
If you put time and effort into those types of things, you could be helping the woman next door. I mean, I'm pretty sure, and this is just from my experience, I'm pretty sure that there are women out there who could give a fuck, you know what I mean, about whether or not a woman is drawn accurately if it means she can get a bed to sleep in.
Right.
Right.
Right. Exactly. It's like, here's the thing.
We'll even go. Wouldn't that? I mean, to be honest, like drawing the line for like homelessness, I think that's a little bit drastic. I think there's women out there that literally there's real women out there that even do like that draw themselves. Like and it's funny because when we talk about women being drawn like incorrectly or whatever, quote unquote, it's like it's art. Like
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Like it's art. It's their expression.
Right.
It's, if somebody like if somebody likes I shouldn't feel bad. Like honestly, I got to a point. And I think I talked to you about this, Black Sage, at one point. I think I may have mentioned to you in a tweet at one time. Like at one for a while when I was doing my graphic work, my graphics and stuff.
Right.
Like most of my graphic work, if you pay attention, most of them are females, and attractive ones at that. You know what I'm saying? And at first I didn't want to, because I was raised on, respecting women and stuff. Like I didn't want to be looked at as, oh, I'm a perv or whatever. But then I really started thinking about it. It was like, I like what I like.
And you're a grown man. You should make no apologies of what you draw. Like
exactly.
You're
like
man.
I don't even draw. Like I just do the artwork. Like if I see a girl's like a cosplayer's picture and I want to edit it, I go for it. Right. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like I said, I find it okay. Oh damn, she's attractive. She's cute in that. That's inspiration.
Right.
Not to mention, I don't see why any of this is important anyway.
Right.
I don't understand why any of this is a topic at hand when there are other things that need to be fixed first. Before we start worrying about fictional women, we should probably try our best focusing on real women that are affected by real world things.
Right. Exactly. And not to mention this honestly, this hurts more like for those that want to do, like for the girls that want to do sex work or whatever, or that want to do like OnlyFans and stuff like that now. Like this actually in a way it hurts them more because it's like
especially female female porn artists. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like myself.
Yeah.
It's a double-edged sword because it's like, oh, well, see, this person is, this is a dude drawing this. Oh my God, that's nasty. It's a creep. It's a woman.
Exactly. And I'm gonna go one step further here because when I see a lot of, and you have to excuse me for what I'm saying, I see a lot of interracial artwork. Let's just keep it at that. A lot of interracial artwork, and I'm seeing a black man with a big dick. It's like, And I've seen a whole lot of people in the comment section just talking about, oh man, that's racist. Why you gotta play in the stereotypes? It's like, bro, I don't care.
It's a stereotype for a reason because
Right.
like
It's a fantasy. You know what I mean?
it's a fantasy and it's a stereotype and it's clearly a stereotype.
It's not a stereotype for me. Now let's keep it real. It's not a stereotype.
I'm just saying.
for me.
No, I'm saying for a reason. I'm just saying
Yeah.
for a reason. Like because science, it's been proven. Okay, certain things have been proven.
I
Okay,
mean,
Yeah,
it's
I
just
know.
like with,
Yeah.
and it's just like with black women. Okay, when it comes down to black women, tend to have when it
Wider
comes. Okay, if
hips,
you look
wider
at
hips.
wider hips,
Let's-
wider. Okay, thicker lips. Like when
Yep.
you look at like I've literally
From both the bottom
looked
and the
at,
top.
Like okay, if you looked at art like art references and shit.
Yep.
That's exactly what you look at. You look at different types of faces.
Art
You
and
look at, you know what I'm saying? You looking at different types of faces, different cultures, different backgrounds, different ethnicities. So you're looking at all of this shit, and it's like you're seeing these differences, and when these people that draw, like you was about to say, art
art
in
imitates
some way-
life, not the other
imitates
way
life.
around. Not the other way
And
around.
I think it goes both ways. In some cases, I think it goes both ways. But hey, it is what it is. But no, seriously, if you see something you like or whatever, you can do that. Like that's the point.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Now it's to the point to where like now, for example, you know, black girls with big curly hair is starting to become back a thing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, okay,
But it's a good
that's
thing.
what's up.
That's a good thing.
You know what I'm saying? That's a dope thing. I'm saying it's I'm not saying I never said it was bad. It's a dope thing.
Yeah.
I like that shit. Okay, or you know, black girls with the short hair. You know what I'm
As
saying?
an artist, I think that you should be able to draw whatever you want.
That's exactly the same mindset I've been preaching daily.
Because that's the purpose of art. Art is supposed to be like freedom. It's supposed to be like flying. You're supposed to be able to put your pen to canvas and draw whatever it is that you want. I don't understand why so many people are focused on limiting what people should
Or
and shouldn't
realism.
draw. That exactly, or realism that goes against the very
well, here's the thing.
philosophy of art.
Well, here's the thing. Like, it goes culturally. Like, the West tends to focus on more realistic point of view when it comes to art, and when it comes to the
Yeah.
East, they come more, you know, fantastical, more abstract. So that's a
Right.
different point. Of
And that's
views
why
I
like when they draw
understand.
us,
Right.
they make us look different because they have their view, and that's the other thing. When you're drawing as an artist, you're
Right.
drawing from your perspective, so you're also drawing from how you view things.
Right.
As like for a Japanese person who's never been around black people a day in their life and only goes by what they see on TV,
And on the
they're
internet.
going to draw. They're gonna draw that.
Right.
That's what they're gonna draw. Period. You know what I'm saying? So like you can't get mad at them for doing something that for us it's racist. For them it might be they might love our music and it's a love letter to them to us.
And mind you, they don't only do it for black people. If you look at anime, a lot of the time,
A lot of Americans.
90% of Westerners are portrayed as blonde hair, blue eye, and the reason why they do that is just easier, so that the people who are watching it can easily identify that this person is different from
This person is American.
Right.
exactly, and that's
And they always give us and of course they give the American the brash stereotype, the brash the outlandish stereotype and all of that. But
Well, there's a truth to that. We Americans, we are kind of brash to the.
we are and we are, and I ain't gonna sit there and flex about it. I mean, it is what it is. I ain't tripping, but at the same time it's like, okay, why are we tripping about that? That's just their
and not to mention the amount of shit that we put on. Like, are you serious? Like, are you serious? Like, the amount of
Yeah.
stereotypes that Western media has put out over the years. It's like, come on now. We can't really be too harsh on them.
I guess my thing is I don't really understand what the left is asking for.
They're asking for pretty much a monoculture. Pretty much, it's like nothing can ever be like unique or different or unique. Everything mostly has to be one way, one set, one rule, and if you can't abide by that rule, then you should be punished for hate speech.
I think more
Well-
so they want the people of oppression to control the means of how those oppressed groups are portrayed.
Right.
I think that's what it is. For example, only
I
a
think-
trans person can write a trans person. Only a black person can write a black person.
And,
And
you,
it's
And
not
so on
gonna.
and so forth.
it's not
But
gonna
it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. I'm sorry. It just no.
Some
it's-
of the
it's not.
best listen, some of the best characters that I've known of that are black were written by a bunch of white dudes. It's like when you write somebody as a person first and foremost, like race tends to go away. Like some of my favorite anime characters are Japanese. Like you look at
Yeah.
Naruto for a second, it's like they pretty much got Mexican people, black people, white people, and even Japanese people in there, right?
But if I'm to play devil's advocate for a moment, why does it have to be that way?
Why does it have
Why can't we make it that, you know, people of color write people of color, people who are, you know, gay write people who are gay? Why can't we do
Well,
that kind of thing?
Here's the
You
thing,
can
like
do
you
it.
can do
Here's the
that because
thing,
you got a
you can
great.
do it.
Yeah, you can do
Let me-
that, but you
let
have
me
a
make-
better.
hold I'm sorry. Let me if I can make this clear, okay. And this is just my personal point of view, and that's a good question, Bubblegum. I like this.
Yeah,
I never said, and this is one thing I'll never say. Okay, I'll never say that black people can't write other black people. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna say other people can't. You know, you everybody has to stick to their own guns, their own formula. You know what I'm saying? But what I'm saying is learn how to write or learn how to do what needs to be done. Because if you notice, when a black person does write a black character, guess what happens?
right,
It's shallow. It's shallower than the kiddie pool.
right. Because then
You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be funny. I know there's some great black writers out there. That's I'm just saying. But like I'm talking about the ones that are the SJW ones.
Right.
When they write one, it's shallow. You know what I'm saying? It's.
But
you
is
know,
it shallow
it's-
because they're SJWs, or is it shallow because they're a person of color?
no, it's shallow is because they're trying to project.
It's shallow
a
because of
certain
the
message. You know,
It's the SJ. It's their SJ. It's their ism that they have.
They're trying
If
to
that
project.
makes sense.
They're trying to project the message rather than tell a
Right.
story.
I agree.
That's a lot. What
They're trying to project politics and not a good character.
right?
And that's the point. And matter of fact, Black Sage, not Black Sage. What's his name? I think you shared him. Black Sage. Dang, I just Eric D. July.
right. I heard about
Young
that,
Ripper.
dude.
Yeah,
I
Young
read that,
Ripper.
dude. Yeah.
Yeah. He says the same thing every time that when they start doing black versions of main Marvel characters, he says some of the same thing. It's not putting out a story. People are thinking that this is a dope idea. It's it's a fresh new idea when it really is just a watered down version of
Something that we already
of
got.
something that we already got. And don't get me wrong, like there's nothing wrong with having a black version of saying a black Spider-Man. You know what I'm saying?
Miles Morales, at least in the movie form, he's great.
Yeah.
Even in a PS4 Spider-Man game, he's a pretty alright character, and more people are starting to come around to Miles Morales when it comes to like external media, is because he was written as a kid first, rather than just be Black Peter Parker. You know, he has his own.
Well, this is kind of interesting. What do you think about turning historically white characters into people of color?
That's just lazy because it doesn't give us our own characters. You know what I mean? Like I like the way Marvel did it because I like the way Marvel did Miles Morales because he's his own character with his own story arc, with his his own goals and ambitions.
Yeah.
And
if you're gonna do it that way, then that's cool. That's where I'm
right.
at.
And here's the thing: like a superhero, that's mostly a mantle rather than just the actual character. Like Batman could literally be anybody, same as Captain America or even Superman for that matter. It's like anybody can pick up the cow, pretty much.
Well, I don't know how old you two are, but do you think we should go back to the way things were in like the blaxploitation era from like the 70s and the 60s and stuff like that?
That's
Okay, define that. Define what you mean.
Well, what I mean by that
I know
is,
exactly what she talking. I'm not like people like Shaft, Cleopatra Jones.
There you go. In the
Yeah.
60s, you had an explosion of black directors and stuff
Right.
like that started making these black characters because it was kind of trendy at the time, and not to mention, more focus was being kind of put on that because of the civil rights movement and stuff like that. So
Right.
a lot of
Which-
black characters started to emerge during the 60s and 70s.
Not just in like not just like in television shows, but like in cartoons as well. That's when it started.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, if we're gonna do something like that, like my thing is here's the thing. You mentioned Shaft, you mentioned all of these characters, but guess what? They're memorable for a reason, though.
right.
They were their
You know
own
what I'm saying?
characters.
They were their own character. Not only, I mean, even if you do a rendition of another of a character, like for example, the Black Spider-Man. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's cool. Miles Morales. It's his own entity.
right.
Period. Like that's exactly what it is. He's just like you mentioned earlier. He's just picking up the mantle.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He's from another dimension. You know what I'm saying? Although that could be kind of lazy too, but it depends on how it's done. But my thing is just like I just really don't. I'm over it. Like I'm legitimately.
Yeah.
I'm
at least
legitimately-
at least with Marvel Comics, it's like they're messing up so bad to the point where I don't even care anymore if they go up or
right
down.
and my thing is just keep it like what feminine qualities are like why are you trying to keep mixing the two like
Right.
for
it's like-
example that the Captain Marvel thing. I saw the Captain Marvel picture and I'm like
yeah.
like that was a straight
That was a man.
that was straight up like a
was a
message.
man.
That was straight up politics. Like that was politicking for days.
It's like women.
it was
it's
not
like women can't
'Cause
look
even-
feminine these days.
Well, one interesting thing to me is that I think a lot of people don't. I think a lot of people on the left don't understand that normies can see the difference between propaganda
Yeah.
and a good film. It's kind of like, again, I don't know how old you people are, but back in the 80s,
what do you mean, you
um,
people? What do you mean you people? Not playing.
you know.
Yeah. What exactly do you mean, sister?
Nah, I'm just playing. I'm playing. I'm joking.
But yeah, I don't know how old you guys are, but back in the 80s and stuff, you had the Reagan video games and stuff like that. You know,
Oh
where
yeah,
you
I
had
remember
these
that.
these video games that were telling you, the Dare program and stuff like that.
I
Don't
remember
do drugs
Dare.
and all
Oh
this
my
stuff.
god, I remember Dare.
And
They were
even
cheats.
though they were preaching a good message, just like with the SJWs, equality, all that stuff, great messages. Even though they were preaching that stuff, you still felt dirty when you played those games and you looked at that stuff because you knew it was people who were trying to tell you something and indoctrinate you into something.
Right.
Right.
And that by default made it bad. And I think that's what the SJWs don't understand. Like, why do you not like the new Star Wars? Well, because I know what they're trying to do in it.
Right.
I
and
know what they're
Right.
trying to preach in it, and that annoys me and it makes me upset.
Well, here's the thing. A lot of kids don't like to be told what to do. Let's keep it real. A lot of kids don't like to be told what to do. So pretty much, it's like what you said with Dare. I remember them talking about drugs, alcohol, all that stuff, and for the most part, I pretty much stay pretty much stay clean. So that worked for me, kinda. But it's the fact that a lot of the kids that I grew up with, they're pretty much betraying that lion character. It's like they're pretty much smoking weed, drinking, doing all sorts of drugs and stuff. And some of the kids that I knew that they grew up, they pretty much are just, some of them are pretty much strung out
Yeah.
or just stuck in the same place, or received DUIs, or some of them been just locked up. So it's like, clearly it's like a simple program is not going to change culture, pretty much, or indoctrination. It's like this. We live in a society where we prioritize personal freedom over everything. And it's like, when you try to tell the populace, hey, don't be this, don't be that, don't do this, don't do that, it's like they're gonna listen, but at the same time, it's like, you can't encroach on my personal freedom once I get to a certain point in my life.
This is very ironic because historically, feminism and leftism, what they preach is tolerance and freedom and all these things, but they're one of the most oppressive groups that you can find.
Right, and
It's kind of like the way I see myself. I'm a strong, independent woman. I'm a strong, independent woman because I think for myself, I do for myself. But how can I be a strong, independent woman if I constantly have to be told what to like, what not to like, what I can and can't say? That doesn't
Right.
sound like
Right.
independence or strength to me.
not to mention the fact that most feminism is like that most feminism is just it's they don't really it doesn't really stick in the long run because it only appeals to a small subset group of people. It's like most folks hear me out now, most folks don't really stay on Twitter that much. It's like that's what people need to understand. Twitter is not the real world. It's like only I heard only like 20% of the population even is on Twitter. So most normal people don't know what's going on with these SJWs and stuff like that. And you have all these politicians trying to pander to woke Twitter instead of the real world. Like I see all these politicians in Europe, especially the UK. I don't know if you heard about this. They had an election, and I don't know too much about British politics, but the Prime Minister of Britain is pretty much a very conservative guy. He pretty much is, from what I've heard, he's pretty much Donald Trump light, for whatever that's worth. And a lot of what I've heard is that a lot of the politicians over there, a lot of the politicians in the so-called Labor Party, they're exactly like what the Democrats are here now. It's like they're trying to pander to all these woke millennial, social justice warriors instead of trying to they're trying to talk about implementing hate speech laws and trying to pretty much put authoritarian rules into their laws and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
the large majority of people, at least in Britain, rejected that. They don't want this. They want to know if they can get up and go to work and get some money to go feed their kids or put food on the table. They don't
Yeah,
And
want.
that's
They don't.
really
They
that's
don't.
really all it is.
They
I
don't-
mean,
Or
they
be
don't-
able to build a life for themselves, and you know what I'm saying, that's what
Right.
it is here. I mean, I can say that's what it is here, but like I said, I'm just at the point to where like you're not gonna tell me what I can and can't do. You can kiss my whole ass.
Right.
I'm not playing like that.
being
That's
being a woman and being around lots of other females and stuff like that, that's one of the things I've noticed, particularly in this country, about feminism. And
Right.
that's that they don't the people, the general population of women, don't identify with what feminists are talking about. You have what they purport to be talking about, which is equality and all that stuff, which everyone generally believes
Right. Everyone
is,
does
is
believe
that kind of thing. But when you go deeper than that into what they're talking about, I was talking to a feminist the other day, and I told her, you lost everybody at manspreading.
Right.
yeah.
You know
It's
what I
like-
mean?
It's like they
When
don't.
you start getting to that shit, even if what you're talking about maybe has some truth in it, when you start getting to that, you're gonna lose the average woman.
Yeah. You're
Because
gonna,
I don't care about that kind of thing. I care about raising my daughter and going to work
right.
and doing that type of shit. I don't care about manspreading. I don't care about what's happening to a middle class or upper middle class woman and shit like that in
Right.
Silicon Valley. I don't care about that stuff. No one does.
Right. And some of the stuff is not even some of that stuff ain't even real. Like not even a real, like you said, not even really a real concern. Like
Right.
and here's the thing, like the biggest complaint that I hear that I've seen from feminists is like, oh well, rape. You know what I'm saying? Teach men not to rape.
Right.
And
Well,
that is
that's-
the dumbest-
That's
that is the
that's a
dumbest
no
spread.
by YouTube standards.
like
Teach men not to
not
rape.
to
Isn't
rape,
that
like
Right.
some
that
kind
is
of ideology?
That should go without saying, pretty much.
But
It's
like here's the thing, like what man is like, I'm a man, okay, I'm a black man, 32. Since you was asking about how old we were earlier, I'm telling you I'm 32. All right, so look, I'm a black man, 32. I know rape is bad, okay. I can tell you I wasn't born with a rape gene, okay. I don't understand this concept, like that is the dumbest thing I've heard in my life. Men are not born rapists, okay.
Yeah.
Like, and teaching men not to rape, you know. But at the same time, teaching women to be okay with being promiscuous is backwards.
That's
I mean,
that's
I don't.
backwards. It's like
As somebody who's been to prison with people who have committed horrible crimes, I would guess, okay, maybe I'm wrong, but I would guess that generally when people commit crimes, they know those crimes are bad. They just
exactly.
don't care.
Right.
So
It's
when you're saying teach men not to rape, who are you talking to? Because the people who are
Exactly.
going to rape people already know that. They just don't care.
well,
Exactly.
well, here's
So
the
what? And what's the point in that? There's no point in that. You know what I'm saying? So that's the thing, and we need to they need to understand that the concept. And I know it's weird for some people. They're like, oh well, I can't. You know, well, you know, men are this, men are that. Okay, guess what? Men are visual. Okay,
indeed,
we see something,
indeed.
that we like, we're gonna go for it. Okay, if I see, okay, let me see, let me name. I'm gonna name drop somebody, a cosplayer.
Oh.
I'm gonna name drop a cosplayer. If I were to see Chrissy Victory in person, okay, for example,
Uh
you know what I'm saying? I've had some thoughts, okay? I'm a grown ass man. I've had some thoughts. I've, like Rihanna said, I've had wild thoughts at some point,
oh.
okay?
Okay.
Okay? But no, I'm not gonna sit up here, and if I see her in person, I'm not gonna just jump on her and be like, okay, you're mine now. You feel me? I'm not gonna do that.
A lot of men have been told that they had to be the protectors. They had to be the warriors. It's like
Exactly,
that
but what am I protecting? I'm gonna get into that in a minute. But what, like, that's the thing. What am I gonna protect? I'm gonna get to that. Hold that thought. Get that. I'm gonna get to that in a second. But seriously, if I have to, like, what I'm gonna do, I'm not gonna be like jump. Like, if I'll be happy to see her because I like what she presents. Sometimes she got some good work. I enjoy her work. Overall, I like her as a content creator. And yes, I would like. And yes, I've had a few thoughts. Okay, so I would try to shoot my shot. Needless to say.
Well, to
You know what I'm saying?
preface to preface the rest of the conversation,
Go for
to
it.
give feminists a little bit of credit, I think what they're talking about is not necessarily rape. I think that that's a broad term that they're using. I think what they mean by what they're saying is some men are confused about some aspects of consent culture when it comes to sexual assault. What is sexual assault? What
Right.
isn't sexual assault?
Yeah.
And I'll admit I've seen that personally in my life with certain men will say or do certain things
Same.
that
Same.
you can come up to and tell them that was wrong for you to do, and they really don't understand why.
well,
Right.
well,
Because they weren't taught that, and that's the thing. They weren't necessarily, they may not have been taught that, and they don't know it. So that's why they look at you crazy. And they're like, "What? I thought." Well,
But I think that's what they mean by teach men not to. Like for example, there are some men who will have sex with a woman who's under the influence, and they might not see that as rape.
Oh,
You know
you know
what I
what? You know what? Thank you for bringing that up because I've heard that there's this New York law, Governor Cuomo. He's gonna pretty much introduce a law that's saying that. Hold on. He said that, that rape is not like when a woman drinks something, it's automatically considered rape.
and that's, which is going to be stupid, because that's going to be stupid, because what about the woman that, and this is why pandering is going to get us nowhere, because what about the woman that generally gets frisky when she gets drunk?
Well,
What's going to happen?
Right.
so legally, the idea is that when you're under the influence, you can't consent. I don't understand why this doesn't also go for men, but
Exactly, but at the end of the day too, here's the thing. But at the end of the day, consent is not black and white.
yeah,
In a lot,
It's-
In a
It's
lot of
my-
cases.
it's
my
like working
personal
in the strip.
belief behind it. My personal belief behind it is that I don't believe when you turn 18 years old, the state is or when you turn 21 years old, the state is telling you you're responsible enough that they will let you drink. So with that
Yeah.
being said, you should have enough responsibility to go out there and drink responsibly. So I'm not victim blaming, but I'm also saying that if you get if you drink and you know that you can get drunk and stuff like that, I
Yeah.
don't think the fault should primarily come on the man. I think that you should drink responsibly because you're an adult.
Yeah.
It's almost like these people want society to treat women like children. Like we
That's
can have all
exactly what
That's
I'm
basically
saying.
what's gonna happen. That's
we
basically what's
we
gonna
can have
happen.
all the perks of being an adult, but none
But
of the
you-
consequences of being an adult.
But that's when what's going to end up happening is you're not going to be taken seriously as a woman,
Right.
And this you're starting to see some of that now, and it's like, why
A lot of these
why would I as a like how Black Sage was talking about, oh, we're supposed to be protecting women, why would I do that? Why would I put myself out there? You know what I'm saying? Like, I understand rape is bad. I understand, if a woman doesn't consent to something, okay, that's cool. I'm not going to do anything. But if we both, so what if we both had drinks? You know what I'm saying? And we both get a little frisky. We both like each other. And so I'm still at fault. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's literally where a lot of people are going for. And that's that takes that's why a lot of people are not going to be courting. You know what I'm saying? That's why people are like, well, where's the romance? Where's the courtship? Because you've basically dumbed it down. You've taken a part of courtship is trying to learn body language. The part of courtship is trying to take the time to get to learn that person.
And
you know what I'm saying?
And you have to understand that a lot of young men, especially these quote unquote trying to bring everything all full circle again. A lot of these incels are a bunch of socially inept young men. Like they don't know how to talk to basically their own grandparents, let alone talk to any women. You know what I mean? So they are very socially awkward and very physically awkward as well. So if a guy touches you on the arm, that can be considered sexual assault or sexual battery.
And if honestly, it shouldn't be, because if it, to me, assault literally to me is basically if I hit you, you know what I'm saying? If I hit you, that's assault. If I enact physical violence upon you, that's assault.
But
Without any prior, I put it like this, without any prior thing. Like if Black Sage was in my face, you know what I'm saying? Like if Black Sage didn't do nothing, he was just talking to me, hey, what's up, man? And I just straight up decked him for no reason. That's assault.
Right.
Well, but the idea, no, I have to disagree with you a little bit on that. The idea is that when it comes to people, everybody has their own right to personal autonomy. Everybody has, their own right to their personal space, and nobody should have to be touched without wanting to be touched. However, where I draw the line on that is there are some things that need context put to them. Like, for example, when it comes to Vic Mignogna. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Touching somebody on the shoulder is something everyone does. It's something that we all do to each other. It's something we've always done.
Right, but in this day and age, everything could be hearsay. A touch on the shoulder could literally mean, a touch near the near the breast area or something like that. So we don't exactly know what happened with Vic Mignogna, but I can say this is like from a lot of the things that I've been hearing from that situation, the man was basically he was around the wrong people at the wrong time.
Well, my thing is,
we should never be that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
We've seen Jamie Markey in another video. We've seen her putting her hand on his shoulder and keeping her hand on his shoulder and stuff like that, because it's just a natural thing that you do. So would you because she touched him without consent?
And they were considered.
So would you call that sexual assault?
Well, they were considered to be good friends at one point.
Right. It's just like if I take my daughter and I hug her without asking her, that's not sexual assault, is it?
It's not. But then again, she's gonna let you because that's her, because she recognizes your touch too. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So when it comes to Jamie Markey, Vic knows this person. He knows who she is. They're friends with each other.
Right.
She touches him as well. You know what I mean?
Right.
I've seen it. I literally seen it in a video. Her touching him as well. So
and from what
it's stupid.
And what I've seen from I'm sorry to cut everybody else, but from what I've seen, it's I don't want to get too much into it. From what I've seen and what I've heard from this woman, exactly, she doesn't really, and I don't know exactly what happened. I don't think anybody will ever know. But from what I've seen, this person doesn't really sound like a sexual assault victim. Now I could be wrong about
Yeah.
that, but this person doesn't really sound like somebody who's been through a traumatic incident such as sexual assault.
Why do
know?
you feel that?
Because from the way she's been talking and gaslighting people and talking about you're an incel, or she's adding insulting dubs, insulting voice lines to the dubs and stuff like that. It's like, why would you take this route of being just so antagonistic towards people when
Mm.
you should be more sympathetic? Or why would you, matter of fact, why would you even go to Twitter to talk about this rather than just going to the police, filing a criminal complaint right there?
Well,
And
I'll definitely say something about that,
right,
and that is, being an assault victim myself.
Mhm.
It's not always easy to do that kind of thing.
Right,
I think
right,
that's
right.
one of the primary reasons why Me Too was started in the first place.
Oh,
And
boy.
that's because our legal system is not adequately designed to deal with those types of situations.
on both
And I would-
sides.
On
Yeah.
both sides, absolutely. But I would say that because, if you're being touched inappropriately, you don't have a GoPro attached to your chest. So how do you know that somebody's been touched inappropriately? It's kind of like the old saying of, if a tree falls in a forest and no one's around to hear it, doesn't make a sound. How does anyone know that I've been assaulted if I can't prove it to anyone? And our legal system is based off of proof. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
And so that's why, to kind of get around that, women created Me Too. They created that as a way to kind of get around the legal system in that way.
Right, but
Of saying-
but here's the
But
thing.
then it backfired, and then now it's
did.
backfiring. It's backfiring in a way to where now it's making it even harder for women to get work, because see,
or
now
men
women
to be around, men to be around and mentor women. You know what I mean? It's like, it's hard for
to get work,
Right.
and it's nothing against. Like I said, it's nothing. I
like the spirit of the movement. Don't get me wrong. I like that pig Harvey Weinstein is getting what he deserved after all these years. Fuck him. Fuck anybody like him, and fuck anybody
Mhm.
who touches women inappropriately. That's not right. That's not cool. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But it's
Right.
it's the main fact is that, what are these women doing? What are these particular women doing to reform sexual assault cases? That's what I.
But it's not really on us to reform sexual assault cases. It really shouldn't happen in the first place. Is
Yeah,
writing.
but it needs to
That's
happen.
what I'm saying.
It
But
needs
what
to
I'm
happen.
saying, and this is one thing I've said, and this is one thing I've said, and I've caught a lot of flack for this before. Is
ahead.
that if it's something that happened to you, and you wait 20 plus years,
Right.
it to me it becomes questionable. Don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about the emotional weight. I understand the emotional weight of something, because I've been through some things that have been emotionally heavy. Okay, I'm not going to sit up here and deny that.
Right.
But at the end of the day, if somebody did something to you, it's like being in school. If somebody hit you or somebody did something to you, you do whatever the fuck you gotta do
To protect
to
yourself.
make sure.
that's the right answer. But the reality of it is
Exactly.
that,
And
you know,
I
well,
catch
yeah.
the reality, and that's my thing. But here's the thing: is like I'm the type of person, and I could be maybe the only person to do this. And I don't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry, Bubblegum, and I just
Oh,
realized
that's
that. I
fine.
apologize.
Don't worry about it.
And this is and it gets me hot, because it's like every time it's like, because it backfires every single time. It's like, well, we just want to sit here and blame. It becomes this whole blame game of men, and I'm gonna get to that a little bit later. But it's if something happened to me, I'm going to tell it. Like I don't care about nothing else. Like I don't care about none of what you say. I don't care nothing about, well, what if this, what if that? Okay, well, what if? All right, cool. Well, what do I got to do to prove it? You know what I'm saying? Especially because this affects me. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
when I went through my breakup with my ex, and when I went through my breakup with my ex, for example, it was a heavy emotional time for me. You know what I'm saying? And it really bothered me, and I had to be quiet about it, because more often times when guys go through breakups, especially when it's over like dumb shit, you know what I'm saying? Because I didn't have enough money, or I wasn't, at the wasn't where I was, quote unquote, where I was supposed to be. that the guys looked at as, oh well, that's your fault because you didn't have the money to provide for her, or you didn't have the, you weren't, it's whatever your fault, you were homeless, you deserve this, that, and the third. You know what I'm saying? But when a woman does that, and if I were to tell a girl that, hey, look, you ain't got your shit together, get your shit together, come talk to me, I'd be a douchebag.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I can mean well. But I'm a douchebag. So this double standard is really some of the things that I've been exposed to, and some of the things that I've seen. And it's like, bro, this double standard shit ain't right. It ain't. Like, I don't care what nobody, and that's what's happening, especially with this Me Too movement. It's a big ass double standard because it does nothing. Like this whole quote unquote about equality and all that stuff. Like it does nothing but hurt. Like you said earlier, it hurts women down the line because now there are men that don't want to date. Now there are men that are emotionally unavailable. Now there are men.
I don't think that there's a argument that there's a double standard in certain aspects. I don't think, however, that really cancels out the point that Me Too is talking about with a lot of their talking points. It's kind of like this. I was abused emotionally and physically by my ex-husband for 6 years. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So the question would be, well, why doesn't somebody say something about that? Why this whole entire thing is happening? And I think what it is it really depends with the individual and the person. I mean, for me, it was that I thought about a lot of other things. One of them was not wanting to be alone. The other thing was, well, what should I say? I don't want to say anything to his family. How will they think about it? Another thing was, well, I also have a daughter with this person. There's a lot of different things that intersect with the reasons behind why people don't want to say anything about certain things. And
And I agree. And first off, I don't know if you heard me earlier, but I do I do apologize and sympathize with your situation.
Okay.
I've as a child, that kind of happened to my mother during when my mom had got remarried. So I've as a child going through something like that, I can definitely understand how hard that is. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, you're right. There's a lot of things that go into it, but at the same time, something has to be done. You know what I'm saying? And my point is, and the point that I'm making is that if we're gonna talk about men, if we're gonna say, well, men this, men that, well, let's flash a light on the whole situation instead of turning the light on one room. We got to turn all the lights on in the whole house. You know what I'm saying? Let's light up the whole house and let's talk about it, because there's also been stories of women. Like, I literally just saw a video somebody shared on Twitter of a black woman assaulting her daughter,
right?
Abusing her daughter. You know what I'm saying? With not one, but two frying pans.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, straight up akimbo. Them things like it was a fucking video game. Like that shit was like damn near infuriating. I didn't want to watch it. You know what I'm saying? So if we're gonna talk about, oh well, men ain't shit, or men are pigs, men are dogs, well then let's shed light on the whole discussion, and that's where my mental is. Yes, I understand that there are men out there who will, like Bill Burr said one time, great comedian, by the way. He was talking about, he said something about, there are some shitty guys out there that come home, have a long day at work, talk about tuna casserole and slap you upside the head. Those guys are scumbags. You know what I'm saying? But can we at least admit that, not every ass whooping falls out the sky? You know what I'm saying? Like, can we
yeah, definitely.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm just saying in a general population, because instead of using this narrative that, men can only be the abusers, men are only capable of abuse, men are only capable of assault, rape, it nullifies the other argument. I'm not saying that men don't do this at all. I would never say that shit. But at the same go ahead, I'm sorry.
when I think about this kind of thing, I don't usually think about. I usually think about it as a domestic violence thing. I think
Yeah,
the
yeah.
answers for women are pretty similar to the answers for men in those same types of situations. For example, when I was locked up in Indiana,
Mhm.
I was in jail with a woman who murdered her husband. She blew his face off with a shotgun,
Wow.
and she killed their children as well.
Wow.
And so you look at those types of things, and the eerie part about it is when you talk to her about it, she was completely nonchalant and calm about all. And when you look at things like that, you think about the type of violence that happens towards men as well. You know, it's interesting. I was just talking to somebody about that on Twitter. I was saying that if you really want to get a scope of the violence that women do on men, go to a women's prison. You know what I mean? And you'll see all kinds of people who don't make the news. You'll see all kinds of people who've done horrible things to their spouses, to their children, to people. And they're women. And not a lot of people give that much attention. However, I think for men, you know, the answer is the same. I think the only difference for men is that there's more of a stigma for men. In the sense that, let's say you and me are married to each other. Right?
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Not saying you want to be, but let's say you and me are let's say you and me are married to each other.
Okay.
Well, you know, if you and me get into a tear up with each other and the police are called, guess who's going to go to jail?
Of course, me.
It's going to be you. You know what I mean?
Especially if here's the thing, especially if there's scars on you or bruises on you, visible bruises, yes, I will be going away. Yeah.
I think that men don't have the same kinds of resources that women have for this kind of thing.
Exactly.
And there's a stigma in society that men are always perpetrators. The issue is that if we live in a society where men are always viewed as perpetrators, when can they ever be victims?
Right.
And I think there's an issue with that.
And let me say that. Now I've been sitting back here letting you two talk, you know.
Oh, sorry, jeez.
No,
sir, you can't be disrespecting my wife like that now.
I'll talk to your wife however I please. She's my wife now. But
you just like her for her pictures.
NTR. But
oh god, NTR.
Yep. I'm that type of guy. But I've been just sitting back, you know, letting you guys talk, and I think we can try to bring this full back circle to what we were talking about earlier with you know, the whole incel thing. A lot of incels are basically young men who've been never really had adequate socialized. You know, they're a bunch of young men who pretty much had no guidance in their life to tell them how to navigate manhood or anything like that. So they may not know how to, you know, socialize properly. They may not know how to, you know, talk to women properly. And they're just they're basically navigating through life through autopilot pretty much. Yeah. So the only and for recent years, the only thing that they have going from them, the only way that they the only I want to say that the only way they come in contact with any sort of masculine guidance is not through a family member or not through a community leader, but through like online, pretty much. And that's why you have the rise of some of these, you know, either these alt-right groups, or, you know, the men's rights activists, or, you know, even, you know, certain gaming circles. And to bring it completely fully around circle, you know, gaming has been a refuge for young men pretty much for their entire lives, and, you know, including me, because I'm going to reveal something a little bit personal.
Brace yourselves.
Yeah, prepare for the flashback art.
Oh god.
I'm just gonna keep it brief, because I hate flashback arts. But I was pretty much not a very popular kid growing up. You know, not a very popular kid. Was made fun of all the time because I was the fat kid growing up, and pretty much I did not have what you say a strong father figure growing up, and pretty much, yeah, I have positive role models in my life. Don't get me wrong, and I'm very grateful for that. But one of the things that kept me out of the streets and out of the courthouse was video games, pretty much. And a lot of video games pretty much taught me how to be a better person. They pretty much, taught me everything I knew about how to do resource management and how to basically adopt philosophies that I never would have gotten, from the streets or whatnot. So I understand exactly where these young men are coming from. I know exactly where all these incels are coming from too. It's the
Yeah.
exactly. So it's not like I'm unsympathetic to their cause or unsympathetic to what they say. It's just the
Mhm.
fact that they have society already coming down on them. It's like super hard. It's like they've already had like society basically browbeating them and telling them they have to be this, that, or the third in order to be worth a
Right.
damn.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's gotten to the point now that yeah, the entire like pretty much the entire world now has gotten wind of this incel movement, and I don't think a lot of people are willing to sit down and actually talk to these guys. That's the thing. Like I'm hearing all these, the scapegoating, all the, bad mouthing of young men who don't know how to get with women. Well, it's not like that's not necessarily a bad thing. And if you got any of these young women, they sit down, you talk to them nicely, and you don't disrespect them. You just don't become evil towards them. And that's what I think a lot of this feminist media doing is that you're basically calling them names, all sorts of names, and all sorts of
And bullying them.
right. It's like
Basically.
it's all in a and here's another thing. It's like a lot of these incels, they carry their insecurities into adulthood, so now that really becomes a problem, and it pretty much it stunts their growth as people. So you have an entire generation of functioning like adults that don't know how to function in society.
Mm.
I think
I,
that I think women are partially responsible for
Yes, yes,
incels today.
yes.
And I think they are. I think we have a grand responsibility in that. And the reason why is because if you shout down and you demonize and you criticize so heavily, so much to people who are essentially crying for help, incels is a mental health issue when you think about young men
Right,
in the world at the moment. And the question isn't asked enough. How did these men come to be like this? How did they come to be in these spaces and in these places? And I think what these
the
people
answer
need
becomes
from
it.
women the
Go ahead.
most is compassion and understanding. The last thing I'm going to say is it reminds me of a quote from Bowling for Columbine when Michael Moore asked Marilyn Manson about the two Columbine shooters, and he said, if you could say anything to the two shooters of Columbine, what would you say? And Marilyn Manson's answer to that was, I wouldn't say anything at all. I would listen. And that's what no one ever did. And
right,
that's what
Mm.
I think about incels.
right.
Yeah.
So I
And honestly, I think now when it comes, and that's a very good point. I think that's what it is, and I think it also comes down to there's a scene in what's that movie? Emperor's New Groove, where near the beginning of the movie, where he before he gets turned for the gets turned, Kuzco gets turned into a llama, where he's like, well, he was about to tell Pacha about his plan of rebuilding his little birthday pool thing. Y'all remember the damn movie, right?
yeah, yeah,
There was a part in there where he was like, "Look, I'm gonna take your house and I'm gonna, make it my own personal pool." Pacha was like, "Where do we go? What do we do? Like that's the only place we've lived there for years. What do we do?" Kuzco says, "Don't know, don't care." How's that? And that's basically where we're at right now with a lot of these incels. You know what I'm saying? Um, and that's where a lot of these women are. You got two answers right now that are going to incels right now. It's A, don't know, don't care, and B, don't just give me your money. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And you have these girls that are basically either bullying and or
Exploiting.
Man.
you know, and or playing or preying on them.
Right. And this is
You know what
going
I'm saying?
and this can be traced back to all these, these feminist critics, all these feminist movie critics who call, the original fan base of something, you're a bunch of creepy incels or a bunch of creepy misogynists or stuff like that. And even,
Yeah.
some of these, even the creators themselves, even like the producers themselves, they go that route. It's like, and keep in mind, some of the fan bases of these properties have been there before these people were even born. You know what I
It's
mean?
absolutely sickening to me. I don't understand it for the life of me. Why would you say that to people? Like, just as a rule, why would you purposely say hurtful things like that?
And then you're gonna, and
To-
then
to
you're, and then you're
individuals.
gonna, and then you're gonna expect these people to give them your money? Like, really?
Right.
Exactly.
Like,
And that's-
why would I pay to be disrespected?
and that's the thing. Now, unless that's your kink, then
Yeah.
okay.
Well,
You
yeah.
know, I mean, but even with that, but here's the thing: even with shit like that, there is a level of respect. There's a level of communication, and before it even gets to that, it's something that you put into it. Like, okay, this is what you like, this is what you don't like, and I feel like that's what it's boiled down to. Is like people don't, they don't give a shit. You know what I'm saying?
Because
And that's the problem. And it's and I know that's kind of weird. I know my mind is like literally all over the place. I'm trying to put this sentence together, but yeah, whatever. Like, it's a problem, and that's the issue. Because if we're gonna sit up here, or we're gonna make fun of incels, but then we turn around in the next make one tweet, oh, f you incels, and then turn around and promote your OnlyFans. There was literally a girl that was on Patreon, and I died laughing at this. I know it wasn't supposed to be laughed at, but I laughed because it was so poetic justice. It was great. This one girl was like mentioned something about incels, and then the next tweet was, I lost somebody basically refunded me. They had, like, how Patreon does, so they refunded like over $1,000.
yeah, I heard about that story. It's like, what? First of all, why would
They
you?
refunded $1,000, and then the person that did the refund showed his PayPal account, and he got his money back.
It's like, why would you pay pretty much your whole paycheck against a woman you don't even know? Like,
You know
why
what I'm saying?
would you
And
do
it's-
that? Why would
it's
you
I
not
do
don't
that?
even
know.
they don't
People
even
are
know.
crazy out there.
It's not even they in their mind
Unless
they
you
developed
unless you balling like that, it's like, I don't understand why you do that.
because in their mind, they built a connection with them in their mind.
Yes.
And the person, and either they built a somewhat of a connection, they've talked, and they understand the boundary. It's like being in a strip club. I'm a strip club DJ, so I know how this works.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot of people are like, well, why am I paying money for this? Why wouldn't you? Like, my thing is like, okay, if you're gonna pay, are you gonna pay $20 for a gallon of milk?
Right.
The answer is probably
No.
exactly. The only way you pay $20 for a gallon of milk if it does more than what original milk does.
Right.
Okay, so that's exactly what's happening. You got people that are in one way. Of course, it's entertainment. So let's keep that. That's one form. It's a form of entertainment.
It's a luxury.
But you have some people that, if they're gonna pay, like, they've been told all their life, oh, this is what you got to do as a man. You got to pay for this, pay for that. If I'm gonna pay for something, I'm gonna pay for what I want. If I'm gonna protect something, I'm gonna protect something that I love.
But when does it go from entertainment to obsession?
That's a fine line there. It's like, you got a lot of people
Exactly.
there. You got a lot of people there, and it goes back to what I'm saying. It's like, you have a lot of incels who have basically, they don't know how to socialize. They don't know where to draw the line sometimes. And I'm not
Like,
saying
when
all
do
of
you
them.
get to that point where you want to buy somebody's bathwater? When do you get down to that point?
Oh boy.
Because people, when you lost the last 2 of your brain cells. But honestly, and honestly, some people probably bought it because it was, just for the lows, for the trolls and stuff too. So,
Well,
some people will
you know,
buy
I
anything too. So,
I used to
you,
I used to do escort stuff, back when I was using and stuff like that. And a
yeah,
lot of the men who I would deal with, a lot of the men who would talk to me could range from people who were really well put together and people who were really extremely sad.
yeah.
But out of none of them have I ever seen someone so pathetic or desperate that they get down to the point where they would buy somebody's bathwater. I truly don't understand that.
Yeah,
Because
that
it's a new level. It's a new level of desperation. Like, and kind of like how Black Sage was saying, it's like there's no, at least with that, but the personal up close, you can physically impose a limit.
right.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying? You can physically impose a limit,
And
and they have no choice, but to respect it.
or
Okay.
go to jail.
Or go to jail, or if they can push a button. Some guys will try to be smooth and try to push a button. Trust me, I've seen it. I've been there, done that. I haven't done it, but I've seen it. Okay, you get the point. But it becomes when you take that physical away, the mind is left to wander. So some people do extra things in the name of desperation, and sometimes people just buy things for the lows anyway. You
But
know what
do
I'm
you
saying?
think women are preying on that? Do you think
Yes.
women are preying
Yes.
on men who are vulnerable like that?
Absolutely.
Yes. 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 Yes.
And
Yes.
this
Sorry.
this go yeah. This goes into the pretty much in the wheelhouse of what I've been talking about. It's like sorry, you have a lot of these Instagram thoughts, you have a lot of these Instagram thoughts who have they've understood that you have a bunch of lonely nerds who probably have never associated with any woman in their entire lives, and you have all these Instagram thoughts just preying on the insecurities of these young men. It's like,
But in a way, it's the world's oldest profession, though, isn't it?
yeah, that's a reason why it's the world's oldest profession. But
So it's a hustle when
Not-
you really think
well,
about it.
when you really think about
In
it,
a
is it
in a
really?
way-
Yeah,
in a way, yeah. In a way, it's the one of the world's oldest professions, or maybe the world's oldest profession. But still, there's a method to it.
right.
You know what I'm saying? And I was like, don't get me wrong. I have nothing but respect for sex workers. I have friends, like, I've always respected women, but like after working in a strip club for the past few years, like my respect level has gone up, for them, because
Do you
I
think
understand.
there's a difference between thoughts and genuine sex workers?
Well, yeah, definitely. Because a thought is only doing this just to get a quick come up. You're just,
Not even a quick comment for the money. Like, we not even
or the attention. They're just doing it for the attention.
there's honestly,
yeah.
a sex worker. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, a sex worker is somebody who not only is somebody who genuinely likes sex, but someone who truly enjoys what they're doing, and they don't mind it because it gives them a sense of freedom. You know what I mean?
Not all of them.
Right, not all of them, but it's like when see, that's
They-
when you got people doing it just for just to pay the bills, just to keep the lights on. Somebody who's desperate. But like, I'm talking about like genuine sex
like
workers. Like,
But to me, that's like with any job though. Like, you're
Right.
just taking a job just to take the
Well,
job.
I mean,
Yeah.
but take me for example. I did it for both reasons. One, because I somewhat enjoyed it, but then also I really do care about the money too.
right.
Yeah, true.
It's
That's
one of those things. So,
true.
what's the when do you
So you're
step
both.
over from being a sex worker into being a thought?
When you start
Like, what's the difference?
like when you start disrespecting people for attention, when you start doing crazier things for attention, and you just it's kind of like a drug for people. It's like a lot of these Instagram thoughts are people who don't necessarily care for the craft that they're working in, but they just want the attention. Like, you see a lot of these anime cosplayers who probably not watched anything before the year 2005. So, and you and I've seen a lot of this too. A lot of them complain about, oh, you're sexualizing minors, or you're an incel. You're doing all this, and they're trying to be oddly Puritan at these anime conventions now. It's like, you do know that your entire Instagram feed is like is spread out with scantily clad characters, and it's like
nothing of you nothing but you modeling, and I wish you could see my face for these air quotes for modeling.
yeah,
Well,
You know.
but if you think about it, though, I guess the way that they think about that is, well, if a woman is doing it, it's good business. But if a man is doing it, then it's objectification.
right.
See, and that's
I know
where
you guys want to kill me for that comment.
but it's stupid though. Oh, it's stupid. I disagree with that wholeheartedly, because honestly, now we got women just running around trying to do this thing, and basically breaking. This is how a lot of women got, like, with, I think, was it last year that women got reported for tax fraud because
Right.
they were, you know what I'm saying, because they were trying to just do it and they weren't reporting anything. So it's like, you see, now you over here doing all this shit talking about, well, we don't need no man, blah blah blah, whoopty woo, and then now look at you.
And they're basically
You're being reported by the IRS because now guess what? You don't know what the fuck you're doing. You ain't go ask nobody for no help. You didn't get no, you didn't at least, at the very least, get with a group of females that knew what they were doing.
right.
Well,
And
I-
that's
you
one of
know-
the things, which is one of the things I teach. Like, I try to tell the newer ones that want to come into sex work, get with you a group of people that know the business and that will help you get your business together or help you get your shit together. But hey, people gonna be people.
I've been kind of playing devil's advocate, but if I can give my personal thoughts on this,
Go for it.
my mentality comes from kind of the prison mentality. In prison, everybody has like a hustle that they do. When I was locked up, my hustle was art. You know what I mean? I did a lot of art for people and stuff like that. But you had people who had all different kinds of ways in order to make money. And I think
Right.
the same thing is applied to this kind of thing, which is why I don't like EVOTs, but I also can't hate them either, because
Right.
they're it's their hustle, and I can't hate on their hustle. We all do what we do in order to make money. Sell drugs. Some people draw pictures. Other people do that kind of thing. It's whatever
Right.
works.
And here's the thing: I respect the hustle. Don't get me wrong. I respect the hustle, but I also understand it from a customer's point of view. And my thing is, like, one thing I've made a video about this actually on my YouTube, talking about I did the Strip Club Chronicles, and I'm gonna probably do another one soon once I get everything situated in my personal life. But there's just been this stigma going around that women talk about, oh, we have the power, we're this, we're all powerful, men are beneath us, blah blah blah, whoop de woo. And the question is are you really though?
Because let's
You know
keep
what
in
I'm
mind,
saying?
like, a man probably built that entire stage that you shake your ass on. You know what I mean?
That
Right.
too, and not only just that, like, I'm not even talking about just who built it and all that. That we can go, we know that. But I'm talking about, do you really have the power? Like, if you're basically relying on me to pay you for a service. I'm paying a service from you from a business standpoint. You're offering a service, and I want your service, and I'm paying you for it. It's literally that simple. And what a lot of women are doing now, a lot of so-called sex workers are doing now, they're trying to put all of these little stigmas on things. They're trying to put, like, for example, they're gonna do twerk videos or whatever. Oh, well, I'm not gonna do porn. I don't do that. I'm not nasty like that. I'm not porn, but give me your money. But I charge X amount for this. I charge X amount for that. Now, the beautiful thing about entertainment is that you can charge whatever you want, especially when you're popping. You can do that. But when you start really thinking about it, it's like, why would you, like, the good ones know? Like, the good ones know, like, why would I sit up here if I'm only going to give somebody a little sample of something? Why am I charging them an arm and a leg for that?
But I think P.T. Barnum said it best when he said, "There's a sucker born every minute." You know what I mean? At the
Yeah,
end of the
indeed.
day, there's always going to be somebody who's going to pay for it. So
Exactly.
even if you aren't going to give me your money, there's somebody who will. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
There's always somebody who will.
And you're right. And but my thing is, the what I'm getting people to understand is the shift of focus is, like, and understand it and have more respect for your customer. That's the problem. I'm seeing a lack of. I'm coming at it from an angle of a lack of respect
And that's
for
it.
for your customer, and that's the problem. Like I literally hadn't gotten into. Well, I didn't really get into an argument with her. It was more like we got into a little minor disagreement because, like, I know like the one dancer that I know in particular. She does art. She does her like zines, like little. If you don't know what a zine is, there's like comic
Magazine?
books.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like they're like comic books basically. And I'm probably derogatorying it if I know that's probably not exactly what it is, but kind of give you an idea. But her particular zine is talking about her stripper life and the things that she's gone through. You know what I'm saying? And they're very very strong story. I forgot the name of it off top right now, but I have it. I think it's called Splendor and Travail. I think that's what it's called. I think that because that's the name of her Instagram page. Splendor and Travail. And I was talking with her, and I support her. Like she's dope. She's a great dancer. She's a great personality. You know what I'm saying? Like she's dope as fuck. But the only problem that me and her would get into is that she went into this whole "I hate men" mentality, and you cannot hate the people that's funding you. You just can't do it.
Sure you can. Absolutely you can.
You can, but it's to me,
It's
me
wrong
personally,
morally, but
it's it's counterproductive.
Well,
To
not
me,
really.
if I
Well,
hate
here's
you,
the thing. Well, here's the thing. It doesn't
if
have
I
to.
hated if I hated Black Sage right now, I wouldn't be in this podcast. If I
Yeah,
if
but
I was
there's
one of those
if you
people,
hated
he-
Black Sage,
well, he-
there's no incentive for you
Well,
to
here's
be
the
in
thing.
this.
If you hated me, like I would still allow you to be on the podcast. That's the thing. And
Exactly.
Before I even go any further, I just want to say this. Like
Sorry.
going all the way back to what we discussed earlier. It's like when I don't want to raise a cult like mentality with people. You're allowed
Yeah.
to disagree with me. You're allowed to even hate me. That's okay. That's okay. What I'm saying is. What I'm saying is that you can I welcome people of all different beliefs and all different lifestyles and all different beliefs. You can say whatever you want on this podcast. I'm not here to police your thoughts. I'm not here to police anything that you do. The only thing I ask you to do is to not call for violence or not try to harass people. That's the only thing I ask for around here.
Well, this is what I'm saying.
And-
think about
and-
it this way.
Right.
please believe but please believe if your shit's stupid, I'm calling it out. I'm just playing.
No, do it. Do that.
Think
that.
about. Well, no, I employ you to. I love that. But think about it this way, right? Why shouldn't I hate some of these people? I mean, most of the people, like for me, for example, most of these people who are participating in this prostitution don't have any respect for me. As a matter of fact, they think I'm a whore, they think I'm this or that. So why should I have a respect for them? It's purely a business transaction.
Right, and here's the
I'm
thing.
giving you a service, and then you're giving me a service.
Well, here's the thing. You
Yeah,
don't
but
necessarily
but
have
that-
to
but-
hate the person. That's the thing. Like you can hate the person.
Well, I don't hate anybody, but
No, but here's the thing. You can
You know
feel.
what I mean.
You can
There's
feel
a general
however you
respect.
want. You can feel whatever you want with people. That's totally fine. But at the same time, you have to show some basic respect. That's the way.
for sure. I'm
and
not
that-
gonna call you a
and that-
fuckface to your face.
And that's many
If
of
you
the
won't give me any money.
and that's many of the reason why some of these Western game developers, especially these Western AAA game developers, have such a snarky attitude, and then they're wondering why their shit is failing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then they're wondering
Nah, I
why
get that.
their shit is bombing. And,
Well,
and
that's
this
just
is
bad business.
right. And another thing too, it's like you have this stark
I'm glad you
contrast
said that.
between Western developers and Japanese developers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got you got Japanese developers that are basically making a slow comeback, and they're making this slow renaissance back to the golden age, basically when gaming was actually pretty good, and you can kind of see companies like Square Enix, Capcom, and all these other and Namco Bandai and all these other companies, and they're basically making a comeback, making a quick renaissance, because people are tired of this political shit. They're tired of the social justice shit. They just want to have fun. And,
Well, yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I'm not going to pay $60 for you to lecture me on your politics.
Right.
And it's crazy, and it's just like how you were saying earlier, Bubblegum Rising. It was like a lot of it. What I'm seeing is a lot of it is bad business. That's exactly when what it comes down to. It's bad business. When when you sit up here and tell me that, oh well, you can't, you want to sit up here, oh, if you don't like this, you're an incel, or if you don't like this, you're trash. You know what I'm saying? It's one thing to say like, well, if you haven't heard of Dead or Alive
Dead or
7
Alive.
beach Dead or Alive 7 beach volleyball, triple X rated, what are you doing with your life? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a difference with that. Like, to kind of be funny, to be snarky. Well, not snarky in a bad way, but you've done it.
I kind of hate. On a side note, I kind of hate the fact that game is just not been properly brought here yet. Like, even as a digital release, it's like it's on the Switch and the PS4, and I heard it's on PC, but they never properly brought it to PC. I just wish they just brought this game over here. It's like there's nothing wrong with some sexy game characters, man. You know what I mean?
Right. No, I mean, if it's done,
I will admit, I do understand how younger female gamers would probably get a little burnt out and tired of seeing that kind of thing. Like,
this is not for them though. That's the thing. It's like I can understand it if it's something meant for them, but it's not meant for them.
Exactly.
Any game can be for anybody.
Yes, but here's the thing. There's a target demographic.
There's a target demographic. Sure. That's what I'm saying. Like we know Mortal Kombat was who it was designed for originally.
It was designed for young boys. But
hold on for a moment. So if that's true, that there's like target demographics and stuff like that,
right?
And they shouldn't be upset because that game isn't for them, then when feminists go out and they make a game or they turn an existing property into something for them, where's all the anger coming from? Maybe it's not for you.
No, it's because you're taking a beloved property and you're turning it into something it's not. It's like
most of the time I see what you did there, but I see you trying to play devil's advocate. And in this case, it's not going to work because most of the time the SJWs that do that, they just take it and they try to make it theirs instead of getting the proper clearance.
Yeah, and look at Gears of War 5.
Gatekeeping though, isn't it? What's the proper clearance?
The proper clearance is making your own stuff.
I'm talking legal clearance. I'm talking using their property.
Well, sure, but if I buy the IP from you, it's mine now. I can do whatever.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want with it, but don't expect the people to follow you. That's the thing.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, you can have it.
Look at
if you take Sonic the Hedgehog, I put it like this: if you take Sonic the Hedgehog and fuck up Sonic the Hedgehog, I'm gonna be mad as fuck. Okay,
and I'm not even
gonna tell you that straight up. I ain't buying shit. I will personally come to your house and have some words for you. Okay,
well, more than they already fucked it up. So I mean.
Yeah, it's been fucked up for a while now.
Well,
but I'll take that over some. They don't even put no feminist bullshit in it. I'll tell you that now.
Look at Gear.
But you understand my point. I mean, my point is that if I make it for me, then what's the problem with it?
Well, here you can make your.
But you're sharing it. But if you're sharing it to the public as this is what I want you to see, then this is what
I mean. Look at the Charlie's Angel. Look at the Charlie's Angel movie that came out. You know, that was obviously a feminist. Look at the Charlie's Angel movie.
And it flopped.
That came out.
And it flopped.
It did, but my point that I'm trying to say, though, is they made that was a feminist circle jerk, so let them have their circle jerk.
But here's the thing, like, why couldn't they make their own? Like, can they make
Charlie's
their own
Angels?
Well, Charlie's Angels has historically been a feminist project.
But here's the thing,
exactly.
though. It's always...
It was just good back then.
But
exactly.
But here's the thing, what I have to say,
here's the thing. There was no marketing. Where was the marketing at? Nobody knew this movie existed. I'm going from a business standpoint and why this movie was bad, okay? Not because nobody knew what happened was going on. Where were the other characters at? Okay.
And not to mention that it's
other previous characters. Who knew about the movie until I didn't know about the movie until
who even knew about the franchise? Who knew about the franchise?
Charlie's Angels was a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah, but back
70s, 80s, yeah, but no, people know about Charlie's Angels.
Well, I know about Charlie's Angels.
It got resurrected in it. It was a thing in the 70s, got resurrected in the 90s with Lucy Liu and them.
Well, here's the thing. I want to.
God damn, Lucy Liu. Whew, Lord have mercy.
The main reason why Charlie's Angels is so memorable.
I loved her in Kill Bill.
Yeah. Well, the main reason why Charlie's Angels was so memorable It's just the fact that it knew how to have fun. It wasn't supposed to be taken so seriously. This new movie it's just it takes itself too seriously. It's not
But
fun.
I don't think people are remembering it correctly because in the
Because
70s,
it was
Charlie's Angels was a very girl power,
Yeah, it
you
was.
know,
It
Yeah,
was.
series.
but
It
at the
really
same-
heavily was. But
yeah, but at
in
the same time, it
70s,
was fun.
What?
Yeah, it was fun. It knew how to empower, female sexuality, but
But
female.
regardless,
Right, you know how-
of any of that, regardless of any of that, I guess the point that I'm trying to make here is, if you can have your stuff, then we can have our stuff. I mean,
Right.
if we make some bullshit, you can think it's bullshit, you can think it's stupid, but hey, if we like it, then why not? Like
Well,
you
here-
said,
But
But
Dead
here's
or
the thing,
Alive
like-
isn't for me. Maybe this isn't for you.
Well, here's the thing.
Right,
money
and
talks,
you're right.
Money talks, and
And you're
bullshit
right, you're-
walks. That's the bottom line of it. It's like if you don't support this stuff, they're never
And
gonna
bullshit
make
is-
another one.
Well,
and
obviously, because most people in the United States aren't feminists, so they're not going to really
Right.
like it.
and not to mention the fact is like, why can't you just make your own original IP? That's the thing I practice the most.
Well,
It's
Charlie's
like-
Angels is a feminist IP.
right,
Yeah.
but it's not fun. That's the main purpose of it.
Well,
that's-
regardless if it's fun or not, it's a feminist IP, so that belonged to them.
yeah,
so
but
they
it's not.
can do whatever they want
It's
with
not.
it.
It's not cut from the the social justice.
the
cloth.
same.
It was.
The same.
It was cut from
I
the
see what you're-
sexual
I see what you're-
revolution cloth. You know what I mean? It wasn't the Puritan SJW cloth that it is now. You know what I mean?
Also, you have other intellectual properties. For example, like Wonder Woman or Captain Marvel. Yeah, sure. These are properties that were marketed mainly towards the kind of comic book crowd when they came out. But now that other people are in charge of these properties, what's the problem? If I feel like this will sell, I'm the artist. I'm the one who's making it. If I feel like this bullshit I'm putting in it will sell,
Well, yeah.
then what's the problem?
But
with
then,
it?
here's
but
the-
also the thing was with movies like that, especially with big movies, is that you have a group of people who will normally you have a group of like a test. You test these things out before you start going through with shit.
Right.
So, and I think what's happening now is you got a lot of people that's for some odd reason going through and skipping the phase or ignoring, I don't know,
Sure.
that during that phase. And
my thing is, if it's gonna flop, let it flop. Okay, but why do you have to take the piss out of me for making it? That's the question that I'm asking.
Because it betrays everything that it once was. Like people, here's the thing, human
What
beings.
difference does it make?
But here's the thing, human beings are. let me explain.
I'm laughing because I know what she's trying to do is now it's funny.
Right. Well, let me say this. Human beings are creatures of habit. We
Sure.
we have a propensity to, to support the things that we're always familiar with, and when you're taking the familiar and making it unfamiliar, people are not going to take well to it. You know what I mean?
All right, but
If you can also make it good too. Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
let me put this out there though. So, Dead or Alive came out.
Right.
Video games are by default supposed to be for everyone. It was an industry back in the 70s and 80s that was dominated by men, because men are the ones who mostly engaged in that activity. So you could kind of argue
And
that over time men kind of created what video games actually are.
and let's be honest, they still do for a bigger extent. Let's be honest.
But
it's
on
not-
paper, it's supposed to be for everybody.
Exactly.
So, with that being said, since it's
Exactly.
supposed to be for everybody, if I'm a woman and I come in and say, hey, I don't like that Dead or Alive game that you guys made, I think that game is bullshit. Now, the thing that I agree with is they shouldn't be allowed to stop you from playing it or stop people from making it. But if I say it's bullshit and I don't like it, well, I'm a voice in the video game sphere too.
But here's the thing: there are dozens of different other games that you can play.
Sure,
Like-
just like there's other movies you could watch. You don't have to watch, the Batgirl thing. You don't have to watch Charlie's Angels.
And that's what I personally don't do. I don't watch things that I
But
don't
at-
like.
but at
I
the
don't
s-
complain
but
about
at-
things that I don't like. I just say,
But here's the thing. But my thing is too. Now that's also too. But you're not gonna. But you notice. Here's another thing that SJW are doing.
right,
They're not making their own stuff.
right.
They're not taking their own stuff and saying, "Hey guys, here's our rhetoric right here.
I
Check
find
it
it.
out.
I really find it
They're
funny
they're
that
literally taking franchises that are already existing and trying to change it to fit their narrative.
the
But don't you think that's gatekeeping?
yes, it's gatekeeping, but you know what? I'm fine with gatekeeping if it keeps the maintains the purity of an IP.
Not to
And-
mention, if you really think about it, over time, especially when it comes to comic books and things like that, they're it's like water. They constantly change. Look at comic books during World War II versus comic books during the Cold War era. They all had political messages that they changed for depending on who wrote for them.
But
You know
here's,
what I
but
mean?
here's the
Of
thing: they
course.
don't beat you over the head with it. They always keep
Oh
it subtle.
yes, they did.
Yeah, they did.
Absolutely, they did.
Yeah, but
Hell,
here's the thing,
cartoons.
though. They don't
Captain
preach. They
America.
don't preach to you. That's the thing.
If
Like,
you look at Captain America back in the 40s, absolutely it was we have to go beat the Nets. You had Captain America stabbing Japanese people to death with it. So that's
ooh.
literally beating it. That's literally beating you over the head with.
Yeah, just a reminder. We're on YouTube now, so
Yeah, no, but
Yeah.
but it's cultural. We talking cultural shit. Like it is.
Yeah.
No,
what it
I'm
is.
sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to use that.
yeah. But well, that's okay.
But
But,
but you know what I mean? Like over time, yeah, it's always been that way. And
Yeah,
so
and
if
you're right.
today, if the culture of the people, because what it is the people decide. So if the culture dictates that this is what we want our comics to talk about now, then the culture are the ones who own the IP. Because when you think about Spider-Man, when you think about Superman, those things aren't just comic books anymore. They're culturally significant
Yes.
to American culture. So with
Yeah.
that being said, if American culture is SJW, then
But here's
That is
the,
what
but
this
here's the
reflects.
thing. Here's the thing. You know what else comics books are?
If the American culture's SJW were fucked.
But
I'm
here's
just
the,
saying.
But here's the
Well, I
thing.
agree with that.
Do you know what else is American culture is founded on? Capitalism. And you
Sure.
and here's the thing. The American comic book industry right now is not doing so hot. It's not. You can go look up the studies, you can go look up the sales charts. It's not doing so hot. And most of the reason why it's not doing so hot is two things. It's the various lack of access that most people have to comic books, and it's definitely because of the poor quality of writing that has taken over comic books in recent times. Not all of them, but most of the big two are mostly focusing on preaching their politics and preaching, an agenda. And I'm not trying to sound like a bigot or anything like that, but most comic book readers are still men. That's just the bottom line. It's like if you want female comic book writers and female comic book fans, sure there are some, yeah, but they
Well,
don't.
maybe this is how I'm going to bring them into it. This was my master plan.
But
This
here's
is
the
how
thing,
I'm
they're
going
not.
to-
But here's the thing, they're
bring
not.
them into
Here's the
it.
thing,
But-
they're not buying the comics. That's the ultimate goal. It's like you're seeing so many comic books
Well,
basically.
some of them are.
Yeah, but here's the thing, you're seeing so many comic books basically being canceled, rebooted. I know Captain Marvel, not Miss
I mean,
Marvel.
there's a lot of blue-haired women buying comic books.
Well, not a
Yeah.
lot of them. If what I'm looking at is true, it's like not a lot of them.
Well, that's because there's not a lot of feminists.
Right. So
and that's the point.
that's the point. Like you look at Gears of War 5, it sold terribly. It pretty much sold terribly, and it focused more on female main character and the rainbow people, at least in the multiplayer games. I'm not gonna get too much into that, but
Well-
it focuses way more on the emotional impact and stuff like that. When Gears of War is traditionally a very masculine dude bro game, and you're missing the target audience of the original product. Why would you stray away from the target audience if you know that's what made the series popular in the first place?
Well, what if I want to create a different target audience? If you look at, I'll give you an example of this. Take a look at My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic.
Mhm.
That's the target audience for that is 4 to 8-year-old girls, but it spawned this beautiful culture of men who started liking the show, and the reason behind it was the art direction and writing direction that they took. So there's evidence that writing things differently can bring in a different audience, and not to mention that is about the bottom line. Because think about it, if I'm a comic book writer, if I can get you to buy my comics, that's one thing. But we already know you're going to buy my comics because, like you said, men traditionally buy these things. But what if I could also get you, women, and trans people to buy my comics. I'll make like
But-
double the money.
But at the same time, it's like, wouldn't it make more sense just to make an entirely brand new franchise that caters to that audience?
well, that's
if,
too
Like, that would make more business sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
well, that's too
Yeah.
much work.
It
See,
is
and
too
that's the
much.
pro-
That's the
but-
problem. That's the
But
problem.
that's the problem. I mean,
Like,
I feel like it's a problem, but no, that's a good question. I mean, and it's a very good question. And don't get me wrong. Now, if you can do it, now if your story, I'll put it like this: if your writing is good, enough to get that story, to make that story where it can appeal to more people,
Right.
then by all means, that's great. If your art direction can appeal to more people, if you can, make changes to certain things,
Like, look.
you know what I'm saying?
Like, look at
That's great. Like My Little Pony, is a perfect example.
look at Kingdom Hearts, for example. Now, Kingdom Hearts is an action-based game. It's an action-based RPG that lets you, you do real-time action-based combat, right? But the main audience for Kingdom Hearts are females. Bottom line. Matter of
Really?
fact, matter of fact, the main audience for like most of Square Enix games are women. Especially,
don't know about
especially Final Fantasy. That is definitely more popular with women than even men.
That's a which Final Fantasy are we talking about?
I don't know.
The entire franchise.
I
No.
don't know.
No,
not the entire
yes,
franchise.
yes.
Nope,
Yes.
nope,
Matter of fact,
nope.
I can pull it
'Cause
up.
I if you were to play, if you're talking about 15, that would definitely cater more
I'm
towards
ta-
women
I'm ta-
because women were going ape shit over fucking what's his face.
Yeah,
Over
but
Muscle Dude.
there's something you guys aren't taking into account. Just because doesn't mean
You're going in and out.
Yeah, you're going in and out.
sorry. Just because a group has a reaction towards something doesn't mean it was made for that.
Yeah, you're going in and out again.
Sorry, it's my microphone.
Yeah, well, here's the thing though. It's like I've seen way more women talk about Final Fantasy online and on the internet, on social media,
No, you're-
everywhere. It's like I can pull this up. I just gotta find it. That's the thing. Like I've seen it. I've seen the target audience. It's mostly popular with women.
Are you sure you're not getting that confused with the cosplayers that do?
Just because it's popular with women doesn't mean it was marketed towards women.
Well, that's not. It's not marketed towards women. It's popular with women. That's the thing. It's
Well,
like
sure,
there's a
sure.
difference.
Final Fantasy is targeted for everyone. That's the thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, I wouldn't even say
I
that.
don't think so.
Like
I
you
disagree
don't
with
think it's
that. Mm-mm.
well. It's mostly just the
Though I'm telling you, there's more men that leans more towards men because it's always been a heavily driven the storylines.
JRPGs have always historically been a man.
well.
Men-
No, it's like a lot of women
Weebs.
gravitate more towards Japanese games more than Western games. Have you noticed that?
But not JRPGs.
No,
Absolutely
no.
Not JRPGs.
I can tell you a lot of women like JRPGs, man. I can tell you that.
Well,
right
sure. There's a lot of men who like My Little Pony. It doesn't mean that My Little Pony as a whole is like made for men.
Yeah, but
That-
then you get a whole bunch of women, pretty much into Japanese entertainment in general because the art style is much more aesthetically pleasing than the Western art style.
I would still
True.
say there's more men who are into Japanese
Right.
animation and stuff like that than
Right,
women.
It is.
it is, but
It
it's
is.
like it doesn't like you have to understand though. It's like a lot of women like cute things. They like things that are
Yeah.
that look nice. They are aesthetically pleasing. They like women like things that focuses more on the emotional impact of things, and it's like that's how I've seen a lot of women, a lot of female gamers that I know personally stand Japanese stuff most likely, and not to
Yeah,
say that
I
they
mean,
don't,
because-
not to say that they don't like
And not a
some
lot of
Western
women
games,
play
but
video games at all, really.
Yeah, and I know a few. Well, here's the thing. A lot of them, but here's the thing. A lot of the ones that are standing Japanese games, a lot of them were raised on that. I like, and don't get me wrong. I know there's been this thing going out. Well, there are female nerds out there. There are female nerds, and stuff like that out there. But it's because then we start going into the blame game here, with of course blame men. It's men's fault because we were gatekeeping. and and I think honestly, to a degree, I believe that gatekeeping is kind of good in a way.
Like I know a lot of women who stand Tifa Lockhart to this
Kinda.
day. You
Well,
know,
diversity by default isn't always good. I think that's one of the things that SJWs have pushed that's not true. That diversity by default is just good. You know what I mean?
it's not.
I don't think that that's true. However, I don't think gatekeeping is really good either. I think it should be a natural progression. If women naturally gravitate towards playing video games more, then just let it happen. If they
Right.
don't, then they don't. But if you try to artificially make it or stop it, that's when problems start.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like, and then don't.
and I agree with that. My thing, but here's the thing: like then it's also true in reverse too. Don't artificially try to force your way into it.
Yeah,
either.
that's what I'm saying. Don't
Right.
don't do either. It should
And-
be natural.
And that's I think that's where the issue lies is that we're seeing a lot of I've seen a lot of people like especially SJWs are trying to barge into places where men are
Right.
and
Right.
trying to take over. They're trying to take over what they enjoy, and it's not necessarily fair to them. We're not going into their net. Well,
We're not going
Not-
into their spaces and invading their hobbies, and basically
actually,
saying, hey, you can't do this. That's sexist. That's demeaning towards women. But
And that's the thing that I hate. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. That was my main problem was bully hunters when that idea came out.
well, not even
that,
that. It's feminist frequency in general. It's like,
Well, yeah, like that too. But I just think Anita Sarkeesian was just misinformed.
it's not
but-
misinformed. She was willingly misinforming people. You
I
know,
think that for the most part, they have to understand that video gaming is something that was primarily marketed towards men and pioneered by men.
yeah, because
So-
video games, and not to cut you off there, Bubblegum. I'm sorry, but video games were basically they're founded on the core principle of conquest. They're founded on the core principle of problem solving. You have men who want to work to solve a problem, work to fix things. That's what we are. That's in our nature. We fix things. So
I
there's
think
a
that's
problem.
a human thing, though. I think that's a trait indicative of people, and the reason why I say that is because if it wouldn't evolutionary wise, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah, but then you
It
look at all.
has-
I'm sorry. Well, then you look at all the professions that are done by men. Is usually, construction work, yard labor, warehouse work, stuff like
sure,
that.
but now we
Is-
have to define what problem solving is. I mean, problem solving can mean a lot of different things
Well,
for a lot of
well,
different things.
From what I've learned from game design is that problem solving is universal. That's a universal trait. The thing is, you have to make certain games for men and certain games for women.
I don't necessarily think that's true, because people can enjoy all kinds of things. So just like we said, with men enjoying My Little Pony or women enjoying Gears of War, there really is no set. I think when it comes to rather people enjoy something or rather they don't.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have to agree to disagree on that issue because,
Oh no, I'd love to debate you about it.
yeah.
well,
I feel like if there's you do have while there are things that are intentionally
made for a
like,
different
or originally
demographic.
other demographics can like it. I'm not saying that I've never. One thing I'm not saying personally is that, like, say for example, NBA 2K. When you think of black people gaming, you generally think of black people playing
Well,
Madden or NBA 2K.
that's 100% true. Like a lot,
You know what I'm saying?
Like,
Like,
a lot of black people play that game to death.
You know what I'm saying? I'm actually playing 2K19 right now. But anyway, no, seriously. But like you think of stuff like that, but like when just because they do that, you know what I'm saying, they could play other games too.
They can't.
know,
They
a black
just don't want
person-
to.
You know what I'm saying? Black people can play other games too. If I choose, like, if I want to play anything, something like Final Fantasy, I can. You know what I'm saying? And it also goes with upbringing too, because if if anybody played like back in the day, people would get made fun of for playing like Legend of Zelda.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And then-
Like,
yeah.
people would get made fun of for playing like Final Fantasy.
And that was a decade. And that was a decade ago.
The fuck is a Final Fantasy? You know what I'm saying? And you get a swirly for playing Final Fantasy.
His-
8. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Like the fuck, like no, like that's bullshit.
And
You know what I'm saying?
and that mentality that mentality was only around a decade ago. Can you believe that?
Yeah, that's crazy,
A
ain't it?
decade ago.
But no, but at the same time, it's like you do want to. I believe that also humans protected, like, are we're protective of our spaces,
right.
and like if we want to build like a community or something, it's if especially if we establish a community, it's good to gatekeep. I think in a way to make sure you keep the unwanted shit out.
And I agree. I agree with
you're-
that sentiment.
I will
It's
be
like
right back. You
Go
two
ahead.
talk amongst you.
okay.
Darn, okay.
Um, yeah.
But no, like I that's what I think. It's decent to gatekeep, but it shouldn't be like it shouldn't be overbearing. You know what I'm saying? It shouldn't be a form of control. Like in order for you to stay in this group, you have to know. It's like a fucking job. You got to know all the
you gotta know all
all the voice
culture.
line. Yeah, exactly. You got to know all the. You got to refresh yourself on the culture. Please refresh yourself on the culture this week.
Right.
We're going to be going over a test there's a test at the end of the year.
Right.
And we're gonna give y'all, a test at the end of the year. No, that's some bullshit.
And you felt that, and
You
So,
felt that test, you're out. Like,
yeah.
no, that part I can't fuck with. But I do believe and agree to an extent of small things. Like you don't want people that obviously don't care about the community or don't have an interest in gaming.
they just want to control it. I understand perfectly.
You don't want that. You don't want people that are gonna try to make you, that are gonna come in and make you change your rules, that don't care about you in the slightest.
And
that's
then,
what you don't want.
then ultimately leading to low sales and ultimately getting stuff canceled and flopping. And I agree with the sentiment: get woke, go broke. That's pretty much the free market telling itself, hey, if you do something we don't like, we're gonna make you pay financially for it. And and going back to Dead or Alive, that game was obviously marketed and was famous for its sex appeal. And if you try to do anything to basically alter that, you try to do anything that
I'm back, by the way.
oh,
Welcome
okay.
back.
Yeah, well, we were just talking about gatekeeping, and I just want to say this: with a series like Dead or Alive, that's a series made specifically for its sex appeal, especially
Sure.
for the women's sex appeal. And there's nothing you can really do that can change that. I mean, once a series is known for something, you can't change that brand no matter what.
Sure. And that's where I agree with you. I don't think that people should.
I mean,
Gears of War
you
was
can change it.
right, but
Go
it's
ahead.
not gonna go well. Like Gears of War, like I said, it's a dude bro game. It's a game that's made for very masculine men.
Well,
And
maybe.
yeah,
But
yeah, and
other people
I
play it
wouldn't
who are masculine men.
right, but
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was very it was like, but the content was very dude bro ish.
right,
That was the level of the content. Yeah,
Right.
But I
But
get
who's a dude, bro? I mean,
the guy,
how do you define that?
the 20 to 30-year-old guy who is coming home from work or from college. He wants to talk shit with his friends over Xbox
there's a
Live.
lot of 12-year-olds and 15-year-olds playing Gears of War too.
Yeah, that demographic. I'll say that the 12 to 30-year-old guy who just wants to sit home and
But
play.
what about all the women who play Gears of War?
Well, that's a very small, minute amount. Like,
Well, maybe not.
yeah, but then again,
there is.
It's just like Dead or Alive. I mean, there's lesbian women out there too.
yeah,
Right.
but here's the thing though. It's like it's gonna be mostly a game made for straight men. That's
Sure, I can agree with that.
right. And if you want a game that it's a sexy video game that appeals to the I'm not trying to get in trouble here. Let's just say the Sameness Initiative.
Right.
Same this initiative.
Yeah, I had to.
That brings me back to what I was saying before.
You have to
Okay,
make
so-
something that tailors to that. Like, not everything tailors to everything. Like, I know, for example, this game called Senran Kagura, right?
Yeah, I know that game.
That game
Yeah.
is actually I know for a fact that this game is actually way more popular with women than even men. I'm not dead
Sure.
serious. It's way more popular with women. And the reason why is because it achieves a level of intimacy that a lot of women crave. And I've actually known a lot of women who actually came out the closet thanks to this game.
But my thing is that I'm trying to say is,
Right.
this kind of brings me back to what I was saying before. And that's, okay, so if we then try to make games that cater to us, even if they flop, why take the piss out of us for it? I mean,
Because you're disrespecting the you disrespected the
How-
audience in the process. That's
But
my-
how though? That's the question. That the question is, how is it disrespecting the audience when the
Well-
intended audience wasn't for you?
exactly, that's what I'm saying.
But what
No,
I'm saying is, okay. But to
you
answer
got
that
these
question, though,
directors
like,
disrespecting. You got these directors disrespecting the original fan base, and then when it flops,
oh,
you know,
you're
you
still
say,
But
you're
they're only
talking about
disrespecting that's a reaction.
right.
okay. So you're talking about
They're
like if they take a
disrespecting the original fan base because those people are taking the piss out of them for it.
okay. So you're still on the remake part. We're talking about if another, like, say for example, we talked about Dead or Alive. Okay, if somebody makes another series called something else completely different, and it was just something completely different, then but it flops, then that's on them. You know what I'm saying?
But
if
you
somebody
know
made-
there's going to be people taking the piss out of them for it.
Right.
I mean, I really wouldn't give a shit because, like I
But
said,
you
if I
know
don't
that
like
they
it,
would.
Yeah,
I yes and no. I say yes and no because it really depends, because there's people out there that really would just literally just don't really give a shit either way. And there are some people that will actually just push it out there just for the sake of pushing it out there, for the sake of representation.
I bring up my point before. Charlie's Angels. That was made for feminist women. And people took the piss out of them for it.
Well, that's the thing. It was made for a different cloth of feminists than what we have now.
To me, it was
Sure,
just a bad. To me, it was just a bad business move all the way. Like, on some real shit. It was a bad business move all the way.
I'm
Because
just, call me a libertarian, but I'm just saying live, let live. You know?
That's
If-
exactly what I say all the time. Live and let
Yeah,
live.
but sure, but you're saying live and let live unless. That's what you're saying, though. You know? Which, that doesn't work, does it? I mean, if I rightfully get the ownership of a property, regardless if it was well established or not, I agree. I do have a responsibility to where I have to keep, the original fans in mind. But I'm also an artist too. I'm gonna make what I want to make.
right, and
You know what I mean?
you got your own audience for that.
but see, here's also and this is also the other thing too. Don't lie and say we don't have any source material.
And definitely
We don't have an 8,000 page novel when there clearly is.
But I don't want to use that source material. I want to.
Well, then don't expect your series to be a success.
Okay, well then, when the other people look at it though, and if they like it, then there you go.
They like
I
it.
mean,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they
That's
like
true.
it, but had you have to
but at least
understand,
make
like-
it. All I'm gonna say, look. All I'm saying, and this is where I'm getting it. Okay, if you're going to make something, okay, if it's a beloved, especially if it's Alpha beloved franchise, okay,
That's been around
One-
for almost half a century.
one you like
Right.
with the whole 007 shit. That's another one too. 007.
Yeah.
Okay, one you got to realize it's going to bring about a reaction. That's one.
Yes.
Two, you got to understand actually, I actually misnumbered. But one, you got to figure out what direction you want to go with this. Do you want to go according to the source material? Do you want to use the source material? What do you want to do? How you want to go about this story? You know what I'm saying? How do you want to take this? Are you gonna use source material? Are you not? Are you gonna make a whole new? Are you gonna make another? What's the word?
now we get into the paragon of the artist, and the
Yeah.
paragon of the artist is that when I make something, like when I'm drawing a picture, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I make something, I have to think about a couple of different things when I make a picture for people. I have to think about, well, what do I want to do with this? But then I also have to think about, well, what am I taking this from? Especially if I'm drawing a picture that is supposed to be based off of something that already exists, which is mainly what I do. But at some point, I also have to say, well, I'm the artist, and this is my picture. It doesn't mean the other pictures don't exist. It doesn't mean the source material doesn't exist. But this is
Right.
my picture. This is my interpretation of this already existing thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And that's what being an artist is all about.
but
It's
at the
about this is
yeah,
my art. This is my interpretation.
right, but
Right.
yeah, but pretty much you had to follow. You had at some point you had to follow rules. That like all art has to follow some form of rules in order to stay, you know, cohesive. You know, like you had to follow the rules of canon. You can't deviate from the path that's been set. And if you want to deviate from the path that's been set, you better be ready to take on the awesome responsibility of changing that particular canon.
Right.
And at that
Or if you're gonna write, my thing is, if you're gonna write something too, make sure let's not do the whole Mary. I'm tired of this Mary Sue thing.
right, Mary Sue's are some of the worst written characters out there,
Well,
and they
let's not get too far. Let's not get too far out there. I'll put it like this.
yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Um, take a look at Halloween 2007
Uh-huh.
when Rob Zombie remade Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Everybody hated that because he took one of the core elements of Halloween, you know, Michael Myers being this faceless serial killer, and he gave him a backstory. And then he gave him all this other shit that humanized him a little bit more. And people said that defeats the whole purpose of the killer. But John Carpenter weighed in on it, the original creator of Halloween. And he said that's his version of Halloween. That's his interpretation of Halloween.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean my version doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
But that's what he wanted to do. That was
Yeah.
Rob Zombie's Halloween, not John Carpenter's Halloween. You know what I mean?
That's true.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it comes for when we talk about remaking stuff. Like, for example, I always thought to myself, what if I remade Star Wars? You know what I mean? Me.
It'd be a lot better than what's going on now.
Well, here's the thing.
Probably.
Well, here's the, but
Probably.
here's the thing. Here's the thing. It's like the people, the Disney, like with Star Wars, they're not remaking Disney. It is clearly a sequel. Like everything that happened is canon. Like everything that's happened before is canon to that trilogy. It's not an entirely new series. It's not a new series with new characters. It pretty much was a crescendo of existing characters. And
Well,
that-
sure, and that's what I'm talking about. What happens if I took all the original movies and I remade them? You know what I mean? First of all,
Well, first
people
of
would
all-
already crucify me for doing
first
that.
of all, you
place.
can't remake greatness. That's the one thing you can't do.
Sure, but
I don't know.
I think about it.
You could
I-
try
I-
though. You
Yeah,
can
and
try.
that's where the challenge comes from. That's what makes me excited about it. So I take this property, Star Wars, and somebody gives it to me, and they say, Emma, remake this into your vision. I would take it. I love the movies. I love the original films, but I would change a lot of things in them.
Right,
know what I
but you
mean?
had to
Because-
change them for better. You had to be very careful with that because
But
one,
but see, this is where the issue comes from with being an artist, because there is no way for you to identify better, because everyone has their own interpretation of what that is. So maybe I did think my way of doing things was better.
But yeah.
Yeah.
But if you didn't like it, then it's a problem.
Sure, I mean, now I will admit, if enough
Well, I
people
wouldn't
tell
say-
me that this was shit, then I should probably take that into account that this was probably shit. And
Yeah.
I don't think that's what a lot of these people are doing. But
Yeah.
from the get-go, if I remake this, then yeah, I'm gonna make it in my vision, in my way of how I envision Star Wars.
yeah.
Mhm.
So ultimately, I have to say this. Ultimately, I have to say this: when you are remaking something that has been beloved for almost 50 years, there is a special amount of care that you had to take into it. And unfortunately, in this case with Disney, it's like they didn't care that much about it, and they only used it to sell cheap merchandise, and it's backfiring in their faces. So what you have?
How do you know they didn't care?
How do I know they didn't care?
Maybe they thought they were doing good and they just didn't.
maybe, but from what I've seen, from what Disney did, from a business standpoint, from a corporate standpoint, no, Disney didn't care. I'm not talking about the individual creators. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I don't know what's in their hearts. But when it comes to the business side of things, because ultimately that's what it comes down to, you have to judge that more critically more than even the creative because the business side of things judges the creative side of things. That's ultimately what it comes down to. And ultimately you can't betray a target demographic that has given this property money for years. That's the thing that most of these business people fail to understand, is that you can't do that, because without the core audience, it's just like with the game industry too. Without the core audience, you can't sustain a sustainable bedrock. Look at EA right now. They had to basically they had to basically sell their games on Steam now. They can't depend on Origin anymore, because
You had to bring up EA.
I had to, because that's the point. Because the quality of their games have dropped dramatically over the past few years. Like, you notice how many less new IP they've been making year after year after year for almost a decade. Like,
Well, they're just scummy people.
yeah,
though.
but last generation we used to have games like, Dead Space, and the Need for Speed games, and even games like Crisis or any other new IP. They were willing to take more chances on new IP. Now we barely get anything brand new from EA other than Titanfall. Everything else has just been a licensed property.
Well, why be so linear though? Why not? Why can't both of them be liked for two different reasons? It's kind of like I had a moment when I played the new Resident Evil that came out, Resident Evil 2 Remake. I loved Resident Evil 2. It was one of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah.
And playing the remake, there's a lot of stuff that they did in it that I didn't like. But there was also a lot of new things they did in it that I did like. So now what I do is I look at both of them as two separate things. They're two separate games from one another, but they're both good, just in their own unique ways.
Yeah. And here's the thing, like they said, you have to, when you remake something, you have to be very careful with what you remake. You can't, like a player or the viewer, they already have a specific mindset of what they're going into. They already have it in their minds that it's going to be a beat for beat remake of something that they know and love. And
yeah, but then at the same time, it kind of you're entering a conundrum, really, because it's like some people they want something new, but they want something the same at the same time, which is kind of weird.
Like I said, human beings are creatures of habit.
To a degree, yes. Because there are times where we want something, but then there's times where we also want something different from that original habit. So like sometimes we want that same habit to give us maybe a different result. You know what I'm saying?
As an artist, I want to view other people's art.
Right.
How do you interpret this? And that's what I seen with Resident Evil Remake. The same person who made Resident Evil Remake wasn't the same person who made the original game.
Exactly.
So I want to look at the new remake, and I want to ask that person the question: how did you see this story?
Well, here's the thing,
how will you remake the same story?
Well, here's the thing: you have to remake it for the better. You can't remake it and pretty much make it worse quality.
Subjective. Better is subjective. You don't know what that is and what that isn't.
Well, better in my opinion is better in my case is basically taking what's already there and expanding it to greater heights. I mean, it's like,
but maybe that's not what better is to me. Maybe that's not what better is to someone else. So how do you determine what's better and what's not?
I wouldn't know.
And neither do the people who are making these games.
I guess I'm not. I don't have all the answers, pretty much.
So it's not something you can realistically do. All you can do as an artist
is do the best you can.
I'm going to do this thing, and I'm going to try my best at it, and I'm going to try to tell people what my vision and what my voice is for this product.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
ultimately, I think we're gonna leave it at this. It's like certain people are gonna like certain things, and people are going to like, different things. There's a reason why there's a target demographic for specific games. That's why niche games stay niche, and that's perfectly fine. It's like, look at Dark Souls. That game is notoriously hard. It was not that hard, but it's notoriously brutal to the point where it spawned an entire genre. And From Software has no intention of expanding it to a wider audience, because that audience that they already have is already giving them money. Is already providing a strong base for them, a strong, reliable base, to the point where even a game like Sekiro Shadows Die Twice is pretty much their fastest selling game of all time, because they stayed loyal to their original Dark Souls audience.
The last thing that I'll say about this for me is I absolutely hate the new Star Wars to death.
Oh, really?
I think it's some of the worst stuff that's been produced of this decade. But there are people out there who like it,
I
who
guess.
genuinely like it, not just like it because they want to piss off people like us, but they like it.
Well, here's the thing. Like, with anything bad, there's always a kernel of a good idea. You know what I mean? Like, the Star Wars trilogy, like the new sequel Star Wars trilogy, the new sequel trilogy, it's not a good trilogy. Let's just call it like what it is. And some of the decisions made in it is absolutely baffling, but there are good ideas that could have worked. I think that
Sure.
Finn should have been the main character overall, and I think that Rey should have been like a Jedi at first, but then she slowly descends to the dark side. And I feel like
But
Kylo Ren should have ultimately become a gray Jedi. Somebody who's in the middle.
think about it like this.
Yeah.
Like I said, I absolutely hate the new Star Wars, right?
Right.
But my daughter loves them. She absolutely loves the new Star Wars. Now, she's never been a Star Wars fan. She's never really seen the original movies, but seeing the new movies is actually what made her go and watch the original movies. And
Really?
so, because she wanted to know where all this came from. My daughter's 13, so this is interesting to her.
Oh.
She's a completely new demographic of people who is watching this fantastic story that she has absolutely no idea about. She doesn't know what a stormtrooper is until she sees this film. She doesn't know what a Jedi is until she sees this film. So for her, all these concepts are new. So she doesn't see the movie the same way I see it. Growing up on the, Empire Strikes Back and all that stuff. She's not growing up on it like that. So I look at her and I have to think about it differently. I have to think about, well, maybe this movie wasn't made for me. Maybe this movie was made for different people. You know what I mean?
Yes,
And
but
if she can watch this movie and look at it and enjoy it, then it accomplished the goal that it was trying to achieve.
right.
And that's really all films are about. Entertainment.
Yeah, and like I
You know
said,
that.
like a bad story ultimately has a good kernel somewhere, and
Right.
ultimately, I feel that if Star Wars can at least get your daughter to, be a fan of Star Wars, maybe this will open her up to the entire, mythos of the
Right.
universe. And ultimately, from what I can take from this whole Star Wars debacle, because it is a debacle, don't get me wrong. Ultimately, what I would like to see is like people open their eyes to the extended universe, because that's where the true Star Wars lies in.
Sure, and I think that's kind of what Mark Hamill was talking about too. As long as it opens people up to the story of Luke Skywalker, as long as it opens people up to the story and the world of what Star Wars is, it doesn't really matter where it came from at the end of the day. Because
Right.
that's what this intellectual property is all about. Now,
And
again, I don't like the new movies, but as long as they open up a new audience to them, the fandom grows.
yes,
At the end of the day.
and future handlers of Star Wars, the future handlers of Star Wars are probably going to do a lot better job than what Disney did, because ultimately, yeah, Disney is only doing this for the profit, but I
Sure.
feel like with stuff like The Mandalorian, hopefully, from what I've heard from it, it's actually pretty good. But what I'm hopefully that the series is put into better hands, and that what's his name, John Favreau guy, he can basically be the next director of a new trilogy or a new movie series, and
Now, do you know how interesting that is, though?
yeah,
I mean, think about it for a second. The first Star Wars film that my daughter has ever seen was Rogue One, which was one of the better ones.
yeah,
I liked Rogue One.
yeah,
And think about watching Star Wars with somebody who has absolutely no idea about anything in the series. It's a fascinating thing to observe. You know what I mean?
yeah,
You take a look at them, and you take a look at how they react to it, and you take a look at them asking questions about this story, this world, and stuff like that, and then they go further into it, and they go further into it,
right,
and they go further into it, and then it kind of creates this neo fandom to it,
right,
where if you think about it, for better or for worse, it's not 40 years ago.
right.
It's not 50 years ago. It's
times,
not.
yeah, times do
Yeah,
change.
it's not the 70s anymore. It's not the 80s. It's not the early 90s. I fucking wish it was, but it's not.
And here's a crazy thing. When I was coming up, my introduction to the Star Wars series was basically the prequel trilogies. The prequel trilogies up to the Phantom Menace, up all the way up to the Phantom Menace, pretty much. So
Which people also called garbage.
right, but here's the thing though. There was a good idea there, like the kernel of the entire, like the Phantom Menace. There was a entire kernel there that was actually a good idea. It chronicled the changes. It chronicled the adventures of the fall of Anakin Skywalker, and people hated it. But me personally, I thought it was a good movie. Looking back at it now,
I did too.
no,
I liked it too.
now looking back on it, I can see all the flaws in it, but ultimately, I feel that the prequel trilogies was a good story in its spirit. And who knows what the next generation is gonna like? Maybe they're gonna look at it the same way I looked at it, the prequel trilogies.
At the end of the day, as a nerd,
Right.
deep down inside, I grew up on a lot of different stuff. I grew up in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
Seeing all this different stuff, comic books and video games and all that stuff, there's naturally going to be things that I'm upset with. I don't like where the industry is headed. I don't like it because it's pushing a political narrative, and I don't think media should do that. I know that media does do that, but I don't think it should. But, however, I have to ask myself that if it still means that people like my daughter can get into these things and it inspires a new generation, is it really that bad?
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe Star Wars isn't for me anymore. Maybe these comic books and stuff like that, because I'm almost about to be 40 pretty soon. Maybe this stuff isn't for me anymore. Maybe at the end of the day, as long as it gets these people into this stuff and it builds fandoms and it builds future fans and stuff like that, maybe it's not that bad of a thing.
Yes and no.
Well, let me say this because I'm gonna say this because I definitely, I feel it and I agree to an extent. Like when you make my thing is like when you make an IP,
Right.
and especially when it gains traction, there's certain things I'm all for change. Like if there's a different storyline or, like I'll use more of the Sonic franchise because I'm more familiar with that. But like there was games in the Sonic franchise that they try to change up the formula, to meet the demands, like the 3D demand, the 3D gaming, because Mario did their 3D gaming, and Mario did a jump into 3D, and it was different, but it was well received. But also too, it also still followed the formula too. When you think about it, it followed the formula, but it also created one as well. You know what I'm saying? It still created it expounded on what was already there. What Mario has done, it's not they. What a lot of these franchises are doing now is that they're alienating their original fan base. That's what you don't do. Is you don't alienate your original fan base
And you
in order to gain new ones.
and you definitely don't disrespect them either.
You
You know what I'm
and
saying?
that's where
That's
I agree with you guys. I do agree with you guys on that.
that I'm all for adding new people. Like if there's more people that want to join into the certain franchise, cool. But don't sit up here and always try to retcon everything. You
You
remember
don't
that
alienate your original fan base, but
by
also
retcon.
you have to understand that it's important for you to also make room for new people. Bob Dylan said it the best when he said, "Get out of the new world if you can't lend your hand because the times they are changing." You know what I mean? It's been like this since forever. At the end of the day, like when we were growing up, I imagine you guys are in your 30s. I'm in my 30s,
Yeah.
late 30s.
Well, I'm actually in my mid-20s.
Okay, but still, you're still mid-20s is still old enough to remember back then, if we can call it that.
Yeah.
We remember how our parents used to be about certain things. You know what I mean? When it came to music, when it came to art, when it came to films, when it came to movies. And there's always going to be that generation who is going to try and hold on to the way things were. Now, this can go in varying degrees. For you guys, it doesn't seem like you all are trying to necessarily hold on to the way things were. You're just trying to protect something that you really, really care about.
Right. It's a level of protection.
You missed that part. You missed that part of the conversation earlier. Like I as far as the gatekeeping goes, like I believe in like gatekeeping to keep the people out that don't want to be a part of the community, that have no intention of being part of the community.
You have to respect.
You know what I'm saying?
I have to take back I have to take back what I said, because I don't even really think what you guys are. It's not gatekeeping. You guys are just trying to protect something that's very important and sacred. And I think that that's one of the things that the SJWs don't understand. That it's not about gatekeeping, and it's not about sexism or misogyny. It's about wanting to protect something that you care about, and that's really important. And the creators of these films need to realize that this stuff is no longer just an IP anymore. They're cultural phenomena that people have grown up with, that people care about.
That's something that got them from very, very dark days. You know what I mean?
Right, and that's important to people. That's really extremely important to people. So it's not as simple as, oh, well, fuck you. I'm going to go ahead and do whatever the fuck I want to do with it. You can't do that, because these same people who you're saying fuck you to are the ones that brought these to where they are in the first place.
And not to get too much of a tangent, because I know you guys are tired, but look at the new Ghostbusters film. I mean, the brand new one that's coming out. The brand new one that's coming out. Look at how many people jumped for joy when they had the original cast coming back in some fashion. And I'm not talking about some bullshit cameo like the 2016 film did. I'm talking about, like, it's literally the third movie. Like, they're coming back.
They're involved in something.
Yeah, they're coming.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they're coming back for one last ride. And unfortunately, Harold Ramis will not be there, but he is going to be involved in there in some way. But what I'm saying is that if you're going to change something not only gracefully but respectfully. You got
exactly.
The new Ghostbusters look like it's made to respect its audience. It's made to respect its audience, but it's also here to give the new audience a gentle push into the fandom. And that's exactly what people have been asking for. Nobody wants people to not get like the things that they love. Exactly, but you have to respect. There's a certain level of respect you have to have. It's like
I kind of noticed this when I was listening to that Umbrella guy.
Yeah.
I was listening to him talk about this and saying that all it's about is just passionate people who care about properties that they've grown up with, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think that a middle ground needs to be made when it comes to this between the old versus the new. I think one of the major issues that both you all, Comicsgate, and all these other people are having with the industry at the moment is just the blatant disrespect that's coming from people who care about these IPs. I think that's what you're trying to say overall, is that, you can't just say fuck these people. That's not the right kind of approach towards this kind of thing.
Right. It's like,
know?
I know.
Especially not for people who don't even really care about the intellectual property as much as you all do.
Right, because it's not about, it's not even,
because that's what it was made. We were the ones that bought into it in the first place because we were invested into it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We don't go, like I said, I feel like that's where a lot of it's going. Is like, oh, these SJWs are coming in here and like, hey, can we hey, we want to change this. No, we don't like this. Why is Princess Peach always being rescued? Because we should have it to where Princess Peach does this, that, and the third.
And she does, and that's the thing that she does.
She has her own game. She has her own game.
With that being said, though, gentlemen, I also think that you all also need to give a chance to new creators to try to,
of course,
make what they feel they need to make.
Of course.
And there's naturally going to be things in it that you don't like. Like I said, Resident Evil was really important to me. There are things that I don't like in the new one, but I'm also going to give the new artist a chance to be an artist. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
right.
try and do what it is that they want to do. And if there are people who like it, you can't take the piss out of them.
Right. It's like, here's the thing. It's like it ultimately has to be good overall. Like, it has to be alright, decent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
I mean,
but decent to you isn't necessarily probably going to be decent to somebody else. I mean, think about it for when Resident Evil 2 came out, there were people who were arguing with the developers over not putting fixed camera angles inside of the game, because fixed camera angles was a really important aspect of horror games at the time. But they're not realizing that the new people that they want to bring into this don't want to play with fixed camera angles anymore, because it's an aging style of video game.
Well, yeah,
you know what I mean?
You had to change it. That's mostly put down to the quality of life. You know what I mean? That's quality of life things. We're not talking about, changing the overall themes and the messages and the content of the game. That's just the quality of life stuff.
But that's important to some people.
Yeah.
I mean, just like in this Final Fantasy remake that's coming out, a lot of people were really upset that they're not doing turn-based active time battle system anymore.
Well, that's the thing. No, it's a sign of new technology, because back then turn-based games were mostly made because certain technology, like game consoles, for example, were limited in technology, so they couldn't really do too much on it. So that was born out of that. But with newer technology that can make you traverse through open world spaces, it's like it kind of defeats the point. Even the new Monster Hunter games have free-form combat. It allows you to switch.
Can see how that stuff would be important to people who hold games near and dear to their heart.
Yeah, and it allows you to switch between them. But Final Fantasy it's been the pioneer. It's been the leader of combat systems for RPGs. So
sure.
Ultimately, I feel that you do need to make a compromise on certain things when it comes to quality of life and different technology being put into these games and different storytelling styles to put into these movies and stuff. But you ultimately cannot betray the core theme that made this thing special and made it so great.
I want to hear from both of you. What do you think is the middle ground that will marry these two concepts together? Because that's really what we need. We need to marry these two concepts together so we can have the newer people being satisfied, but we can have the older fans who are fans of these properties being happy as well. What marries these two concepts together?
Well, I'm gonna let you go, Lawrence.
A marriage and a priest. Duh.
That would probably do
Oh
it.
boy.
No, I'm gonna let you go. You go ahead, Bug Sage. I'm gonna let you go first.
No, because what I had to say, I'm gonna have to put some knowledge down on this one. So I'll let you
No,
go
go for
first.
it. Oh, you first. You first. It's your show. I'll let you go first.
All right. What I think the perfect marriage would be. Ultimately, you do have to keep true to what the original theme of the game is like, or what the original theme of the property is like. It's like you can't have a Sonic game without Sonic going fast. That's just the point of the whole game. You can't have a Resident Evil game without the horror. That's just not going to work. You can't, have Street Fighter without Ryu doing a Hadouken. That's just how it is. That's just how everything is. But you have to you have to introduce better quality of life, better quality of life storytelling and better quality of life features in not only a game but in movies or in different forms of media. So what appeals to young people these days might not necessarily appeal to people who are older, but as long as you slowly gravitate to certain things, may have them slowly gravitate towards certain things, then it wouldn't be an issue for them. So ultimately is this: you cannot ever betray the themes of a certain property, because if you do that, you lose the heart of the story, you lose the heart of the series. But you also have to realize is that, in terms of features, in terms of the quality of life, you have to change that no matter what, because the times are changing. So, like I said, you're never going to please everyone. That's just a fool's errand. But you need to please enough people to where you can keep a happy middle ground and not have people jumping down your throat and having all these beloved franchises destroyed. So that's really all I have to say on that issue, and I want to let you guys take the final stand on this.
Oh, so it's my
Yes, it is your turn,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah.
I thought the wedding ring the priest was good enough, but
Mm,
no.
thank you. Can I get an amen? Can I get an amen here?
Amen.
Sit the not playing. Not playing. But no, honestly, it's what really should work is it's really just to me it's just a simple layer of respect. One, yeah, I understand that things do change. Like, when, like I said, when certain things made a jump from 2D to 3D, when games made the jump from 2D to 3D, like Mario 64, it was still done. You notice it's one of the most beloved games of all time. You know what I'm saying? Like it's literally one of the most beloved games of all time for a reason, because not only did it change, it didn't say it was better than the first one, but it took the previous idea and it added some, like Black Sage was saying, quality of life shit. You know what I'm saying? Like things are jumping in 3D. Cool, let's do it. Let's go ahead and make it happen. Basically, keeping, if you can, keep what you can keep. And if you can make a new story out of it, cool. If you can if you can't keep it, or you want to try to make a whole new different story, try to do that. Try to be respectful to the old as possible. When you start making a divide between the two, that's when I feel you have a problem. When you start saying, fuck off old people, this is a new game now, you and alienate the audience that got you to where this is now a cultural icon. You're gonna have people are gonna get mad, and they're gonna want to fight back and say, no, we're not spending money on this, because this isn't what we argue for. You know what I'm saying? This isn't what wasn't what we want. You know what I'm saying? This isn't what we believed in. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So we if you can marry the old, if you can, maybe even if you do a whole new idea, maybe just do maybe like a subtle nod in the story, or good writing, good Easter eggs, something that will marry the idea of both of those and say, look, this is, we want to do something different, but we still want to keep that respect
Right.
of the old. Now, you may not be able to keep everything from the old, or anything at all, or maybe a little bit or whatever, but do it in a respectful manner. That's all I'm saying.
So, do you think that if they made Star Wars with Rey and all the rest of those people, but it was written better, do you think that it would be fine?
Yes, absolutely. Like listen, there's nothing wrong with the actors or the characters or whatnot. It's just the fact that it was just produced in such a piss poor way. That's what people are mostly angry about. Is that you're not trying to give the all characters a proper send off, a proper sunset. You basically disrespected everything that people beloved in that previous trilogy. You made Vader's sacrifice virtually worthless. Luke basically was made into a complete coward. He portrayed every ideal that he was brought out to be, and ultimately Rey got away with everything. Was a Mary Sue that got away with everything.
And how do you think that makes people feel?
It just makes people feel like they wasted 40 years of their lives. Like, you have to understand, like, people literally grew up with this franchise. Like, there are people who have literally gone their entire lives being a Star Wars fan. That was the thing that got them through the day. That was the thing that pretty much got them through, these rough childhoods. And to see their beloved characters basically being disrespected like this, and seeing the beloved story being like the beloved modern mythos being treated this poorly by people who may or may not care, or treat it haphazardly, how do you think that's going to make them feel? How do you think we got all these podcasts and YouTubers talking about, raising a big stink about Star Wars? It's because to them, that was their life. To them, that was, what made them into the people they are today. And to see this stuff being disrespected so haphazardly, yeah, you're going to feel a certain type of way. So ultimately, yeah, the sequel trilogy is not just a bad trilogy. If these were just bad movies, that'd be one thing, but they mostly feel extremely disrespectful in a lot of different ways.
If you could say anything to the producers and the leftists who promote the producers, what do you think you'd say?
What do you think I'd say?
Yeah.
I say that you folks really do need to get your heads out your ass and understand that not the entire world does not revolve around you.
I think that's a good message.
The world does not revolve around you, because I'll say it like this. This feminism shit, this SJW stuff, is going to be extremely dated. Mark my words. The whole SJW stuff, that's going to be dated. That will not age well. What will age well is the themes of sacrifice, the themes of loyalty, the themes of honor, the themes that Star Wars have pretty much instilled in people for decades. That will be timeless.
Wow, that's really good.
And you had to understand that regardless of how you treat and disrespect Star Wars, is no longer, it doesn't belong to Disney. The IP belongs to Disney, of course, but this series belongs to the fan base. The fan base will definitely treat it better than anything that some corporate executive will ever do. So ultimately is this: Star Wars is eternal. It just is. It's an eternal mythos that will live on long after George Lucas dies, long after Disney shuts down, and it will exist long after we go away, because it's that good, it's that powerful. So in order for you to date this with your current year of politics is not only tacky, it is gross and disrespectful. And honestly, this series deserves a lot better than what it got now. The actors deserve a lot better than what they got now. George Lucas deserves a lot better than what was shown on that screen. And
You know, I really
shame
hope
on Disney for that.
I really hope this goes to YouTube because I think a lot of people could really listen to that and identify with
Well,
that. I think that's really good.
we're all on YouTube right now. We're streaming. In
Oh
case you
well,
didn't know.
fucking cool,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Yeah, you know, I think that a lot of people could really. I think a lot of people could really understand that because that was beautiful. That was really beautiful.
yeah,
I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying.
yeah. So yeah, that's all I have to say on this issue. If you guys want to add anything else, now's your time.
I think you said it all with that.
Well, okay then. So I guess we can wrap this up then, huh?
Absolutely. I'm really glad that you guys about it.
Yeah, I'm really glad too that I was able to talk about this because this has been a long time for me coming. This has been a long time coming, and I just had to, I had to get that out because I feel that final word. I feel that this age of current year nonsense that's been messing with all these beloved franchises and the amount of disrespect that these entitled assholes in the media are having, I think this is going to spawn a new renaissance of brand new art and brand new creative series that a lot of people have been itching to do, but now they're getting motivated. Like, look at a show like Has Been Hotel. Y'all ever heard that? Y'all ever saw that?
Yeah, I love it.
Exactly. Nope. That. Well, you need to get on that. I'll share you a link later. But yeah, it pretty much does what these SJWs want, but it doesn't do it in a pandering way. Like you have all the rainbow people in hell, and they act like people. They don't act like walking lectures or walking after school specials. They just are, for better or worse, people who act normal. And they don't try to browbeat you over the head with all these politics. And that's exactly what people wanted. But you know what's crazy? The SJWs hate it. And if the SJWs hate it, then that means it's equality. That means you got something there. So, all I'm going to say is this. I hope this gives people the spark of a brand new renaissance, a brand new creative renaissance that's going to happen pretty soon. Mark my words, the 2020s are going to be a brand new decade for a lot of creative people, out with the old and with the new.
I guess my final words would be, I think it's very important for people to listen and listen more to people who say these types of opinions and say this type of stuff. And the reason why is because it's really, really important to listen to the fans of something. Fans are generally more passionate about something than even the creators themselves a lot of the time.
Exactly.
Fans generally have a good idea of what they want. I think it's important for SJWs to understand and open their ears a bit and listen. I understand on the one hand of things that there's a lot of attacks that come towards anything that they want to do. I do understand that. But on the other end of it, it's so incredibly easy to carton everyone off as a supremacist or an ism. But it's not easy to listen to what those people have to say. Right. And maybe see if there's something from it that you can think about critically. And I think if you marry those two things, and people did think about it critically, we create some wonderful things.
Exactly.
And that's my final thoughts.
Okay, well, that's good, Bubblegum. Lawrence, any final words?
God is good.
On that note, we'll leave it right there.
All right. Well, you guys were fantastic, and I'm glad that I got a chance to talk to you. Make sure you link me where this link me the YouTube that this is this is for.
Oh, I will. After this Discord, I will. All right, guys. So, thank you very much for this insightful discussion. Sorry for the technical difficulties earlier. I promise I will be way better about this in the future. And yeah, this turned out to be a pretty good podcast. So, yeah. So, like I said, anybody is welcome to come on this podcast, whether you like me, whether you hate me. You know, you can put your ideas out there because I want different people to have different views and oppose me whenever I feel that I step out of bounds, or when the other person next to me step out of bounds. I want you to put your work in as well, because we don't get anywhere when we just yell over each other and we don't talk to each other and we don't get a chance what we have to say. So ultimately, if this YouTube channel gets shut down, which it may not, I don't know, but if this YouTube channel gets shut down, I hope the idea of this channel gets spread across worldwide, and we can have an actual dialogue that will help society move forward. Because at the way things are going now, it's like people are not going to get ahead anymore if they just keep yelling over each other, engaging in tribal political battlegrounds. So that's all I have to say. It's been a great night talking to you guys. I know you guys must be tired as hell, and I know y'all gotta be going to work tomorrow, so I won't take too much of your time. So I'm going to leave it like that. I know the holiday season is coming up, so there probably won't be any videos coming up later on until like probably next week. So I'm just gonna sign off now. I've taken too much of your time. I want to thank you, everybody. Bubblegum Rising. Can you got a Twitter handle anybody can follow?
Yeah, my Twitter handle is I'm terrible at this type of stuff, but my Twitter handle is Scoop of Bubble.
Okay, Scoop of Bubble. And Lawrence, you got anything to plug?
I mean, besides the air conditioning plug, I couldn't think of nothing. Okay, never mind. I was trying to think of something smart to say, but I fucked up. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm gonna plug in my fan, and I'm also gonna plug in my YouTube. I have YouTube as well. I think, what is it? Lawrence 2008 1987. I haven't changed it since, but or you can also search for my name on there. Twitter 210LG, Facebook 210LG, Twitch, and all that good stuff as well. 210LG, and also Instagram 210Law. I'll be seeing y'all next time. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay then, and this is Black Sage D here. You already see my socials in my introduction channel, but I'll link them below. And this has been the first episode of the Hot Button Podcast, and I hope that everyone took something away from this. Everybody get educated on this. So I will see you guys later. Farewell. You are dismissed.